Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Booyah indeed.
Hey!
Happy Thursday to everyone. Bull looks like he's going to Hawaii. What's the
wish
occasion?
I was going
Pro
to
Bowl.
Hawaii. I got to take this out every once in a
It's
while.
a nice look.
I do love
50
Hawaii.
degrees outside, and suddenly Bull thinks it's balmy out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Florida 30 days exactly. I can't wait.
From now.
Wow.
30 days from today.
I sent him an in-depth, comprehensive
appreciate
list
that.
of eat spots in Clearwater, St. Pete, and Tampa, depending on where you are.
Yeah, I'm having so we're going with another family, my wife and I and my son, and we're having a Zoom meeting with the other family, because they don't live around here.
Right, to plan?
This weekend to go over the restaurants and do all that stuff.
Nice, yeah.
Because there's a famous steakhouse that I think you mentioned before, I don't think you put it on the list, was we talked about called Burns.
Yeah, I did put it on the list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's already sold out.
It's very difficult.
For the whole time I'm going to be there, and that's 4.5 weeks to 5 weeks from now.
Is that something that you would like to get into? I know some people.
Nah, we got a big group. It's a lot of kids, so I don't worry. But sometime when I go there, just adults, I'd like to go.
I always used to say when I lived there, that's an adult restaurant.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I want to go there
with going to get
4
anything
kids.
out of a $50 8-ounce piece of meat? Probably not.
My son puts ketchup on steak. So
Oh, my heart.
he
That's
puts
your
ketchup
biggest-
on everything.
That's
Oh,
your biggest
my
red
heart.
mark as a father, Bull. I'll be honest.
Do you have a spreadsheet for the vacations?
Oh, yes, it's in process. Yeah.
Wow. That is next level.
It's crazy.
Most of it just says do nothing, but
That's the best vacation.
That's most of the vacation.
You know, I like that. I'm more of a spontaneous guy.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of take it as you go. I have some ideas, like kind of a base guideline. But I'm not organized enough to do that. But if you think about it, a vacation, depending on how much you take in a year, is really your getaway for at least a 6-month stretch. And I know you had said you haven't done this in a very long time, so you've got to plan it.
Yeah, I mean, we went to Seattle and Chicago a couple of summers ago for a few days, but we haven't gone away in the winter since 2019.
Enjoy it.
And this is the longest vacation I'm taking since my honeymoon in 2010.
No kidding.
Guys, we got to ask this.
So I'm very excited.
As a black man, I feel it's my duty to ask this of all of the white gentlemen on the panel. Yeah. Because I don't think we do this.
You don't go on vacation.
No, we go on vacations. However,
you don't plan.
We don't go on vacation with non-family members in different families.
We've never done that either.
So I was going to ask, I mean, what is the criteria for saying?
You got to really like them. You got to really like them. I am going out of town.
I'm going to eat birthday cake with you. Yeah. I'm going to swim. I'm going to defer to what steakhouse you and your wife. That's like having 2 wives. Like what is the criteria for this?
In my case, it's like 3 wives. Because the other couple we're going with is 2 women.
So it can be difficult. So getting all 3 on the same page can be tough.
What was that show, Big Love? Bulls Live in Big Love.
That sounds like a TV show.
Yeah, it does.
What we've always done, and we just, when we were in Florida in November for the baseball tournament, it was a little different because we were very busy playing baseball, but we tried to maximize our evenings and do fun stuff. I have a very simple rule. If we can all get on the same page and everybody wants to do the same thing, lovely. But if you want to do your thing and we want to do our thing tonight, no harm, no foul.
Right.
Do you. And, as it worked out, probably of the 8 or 9 nights that we were there, 4 or 5, we did group things.
Are they in the same home as you?
4 we did. Yeah, well, 3 of them were. Yeah, because it was a big house.
Big house, right?
With a lot of space. And we barely even bumped into each other
Yeah.
except for in the main kitchen.
Are you guys staying all in one house?
We are staying in one
Woo!
house.
That's big doing.
It's a 4-bedroom house.
Yeah, you'll never bump into them if you don't want to.
My wife and I will stay in one room. The other couple will stay in the other. And then they have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. So my son will stay with their boy, who's younger, he's like 7.
And the 2 girls
and
will
the
stay
2 girls will stay together. And there we go. We got a giant pool. We're right on the bay. It's going to be amazing.
Blast. You'll have so much fun.
I don't know that I don't.
It's the second time I've done it with another family. We traveled. There's a family that used to live here, but they moved out to Seattle a few years ago. That my wife and I are very close with, and they're like family to us. So I enjoy it, but I would only travel with like friends that I'm really tight with, and I know they're similar type of people to me.
To initiate G. Bush, and I guess you haven't done this either, to the club, I think what we should do is rent a 7-bedroom house, and it's a UCSS vacation, and we all go, and we live stream the whole damn thing.
Well, I was saying,
listen,
that sounds like real world.
Jay, I had already
suggested
suggested
to
to,
for
I don't know if I talked about it with Steve or I talked about it with Mike, but I said, unfortunately it's not the case, but I had said a few weeks ago, if the Browns make the Super Bowl, we got to go. I said, let's get an Airbnb and we'll all stay there.
That would have been fun.
Yeah,
that would have been a blast.
Jason, I'm telling you, man. Look, well, maybe what I want to do is we leave the family out of it. Like McNuggets just said, I've been trying to do this for years. I want to do a Cleveland sports media reality show. And for 2 weeks, we take every single name guy that's in the industry. I want to see Jason Lloyd with King Carmen and Aaron Goldhammer and Tony Rizzo and Tony Grossi, including Jonathan Peterlin. I want to see Dustin Fox.
How long before hands
Gerard Cherry.
are thrown?
And here's
28
what we do.
minutes.
In the house, we have challenges, right?
Yeah.
We have best
like the real
monologue, best written piece, tag team shows, and then people get eliminated by doing that.
Yeah.
You got to leave the house.
You got to leave the house. Hey, bro, your monologue was trash. It was horrible,
Get
bro.
up outta here.
Get up out of here. And then, of course, you go out and hang out and do different things.
Yeah.
And guess what? When alcohol gets flowing
Oh, boy.
and the drinks get to going and people's pocketbooks get to moving around and they start big-wigging each other, and I'm going to be right in the corner like,
Yeah, this
Here's
is what
the
I
grenade
wanted.
in that whole plan.
Let me ask you
is
this
you let
question, and
everyone
then
drink.
we'll start with Mike. Go ahead, what?
No, I'm saying in G's whole plan, here's the grenade that's the best content. You get everyone a couple drinks in and just say analytics and walk away. Say analytics and walk away.
Or Baker Mayfield.
The Browns don't run the football anymore.
I'm wondering this. I just have a question.
That's
If
crazy.
we were to do that, and we were to do our show 11 to 1 every day from the vacation home,
Which we can do. We have the technology to do now.
we can do that.
Yeah.
And then every night from 7 to 10, we flip the switch inside the home, and it's just whatever the hell we want to talk about.
Right.
God knows where that might go.
Oh, my God.
Think of where our text chain went yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would we have more than 27 viewers?
Oh, my God. Oh, you slid that in?
Oh, wow. That was a long way to go to commit murder.
Do a video.
Damn.
We could do a video of G. Bush taking a dump, and that would have 1,000 views. 1,000.
We did a birthday stream at G. Bush's house.
That's
literally
true.
Just standing there saying,
That's
"Happy
true.
birthday
At
to
G. Bush's birthday party,
Oh, you were there? I did.
Earl, myself, Mike,
That was crazy.
and G, my son. Was that it?
I think so.
I think that was it. We just went on camera for 15 minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
And it got, even live, it had a few hundred.
Hey, we actually got some more Browns breaking news. So let me do a read. Let's hop right into
Okay,
it.
let's
We
get
legit
into
actually
it.
have some breaking news here. Another offensive coordinator candidate in Berea today for an interview. I'll tell you who it is after a quick word from FanDuel. But the NFL regular season is wrapped up. Still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when they place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose, the best part about FanDuel is the app is so easy to use and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the Explorer tab. You can make parlays in the new Parlay Hub, which is the best and easiest way to find popular parlays, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. I'll show you guys a winning ticket later in the show, but we have breaking news here. Mary Kay just tweeted 1 second ago, Kellen Moore in Berea for an offensive coordinator interview today, as well as Brian Johnson, the former Eagles offensive coordinator who was fired.
Mike, Tom Pelissero had that first. Mary Kay even put that in the tweet.
No,
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, Kellen
Moore, but he is in Berea for an interview today.
Yeah.
As is Brian
that name
Johnson.
Excites me.
Mm-hmm. Former
Those
Dallas
two names.
Cowboys.
Thoughts on Kellen Moore and Brian Johnson? Let's go.
Wasn't Kellen Moore with the Chargers this past year?
Most recently, I think he was. He was with the Cowboys.
He had been with the
prior
Cowboys
to that.
before. I mean,
wasn't he Boise State?
Yeah, he was
Boise State quarterback.
Lefty.
Then he was the Cowboys offensive coordinator
Mm-hmm.
until last season. They let him go. He went to the Chargers. Was the Chargers offensive
I don't
coordinator.
know. All I'll say about that is the Chargers had their worst season. I'm not saying it's his fault necessarily. They had their worst season. And the Cowboys had Dak Prescott had his best season this year.
How much do we give
Mike
that to
McCarthy calls the plays.
Did he when
I'm not sure he did when Kellen Moore
was the play caller.
I have a vague remembrance
I'm
of
talking
Kellen
about
Moore calling plays.
Yeah, now he does.
I'm talking about now.
Yeah, now he does.
See, that's the hard part about it, man. I can't really get into it. I can't really just jump off the roof because I don't know what's going on with these play calling. Like, I don't, until I see who it is, because you know what we're going to naturally do. If it's a guy that we don't really know much about and he really ain't no big name, we're like, no, Stefanski's still calling the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to talk about that later in the show. Will he, should he?
Well, we should just get to it now. No, Mike?
I mean,
but real quick.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson, let's talk. He's in for an interview.
Yeah.
They've already completed
all
their. They've completed their Rooney Rule requirements, so they're allowed to offer any candidate at any time. Brian Johnson, Eagles fans were thrilled that he was let go. Steve Becker, our EP, was doing dances. He was doing the Irish jig allegedly. As soon as they let him go, does he excite you as an offensive coordinator candidate potentially? Then we'll talk Kellen Moore real quick. Then we'll talk about Stefanski calling plays because it all goes hand in hand.
Jay, what do you?
They've covered the gamut on these guys, right? Like they've really spread a wide net, which you want to do in this instance. You want to talk to a bunch of different people, as many people as possible, steal ideas from whoever. The Johnson thing, I mean, he's been up for head coaching interviews in this cycle. He interviewed with the Titans and the Falcons, I think.
I always wondered though, is he just the Rooney Rule requirement?
I know. It's so disappointing.
You don't know who is being used to check that box and who is a legitimate candidate. For years, that was Eric Bieniemy.
I know. Ultimately, it's a good thing because your name's out there, right?
Sure.
Ultimately, but it is unfortunate that we have to say, well, are they just out there to check the box, or are they a legitimate candidate?
Right.
That's frustrating to say, but I mean, he's a big name. If he's a big enough name to be getting head coaching interviews,
what's your intel from why things got so far off the rails in Philly, and what role do you think he played in it?
I mean, they were rolling this year. It was popping, and then the whole thing unraveled, and clearly.
To me, though, that was with the DC change. To me, that's when the wheels fell off the bus.
They've cleaned house with all their coordinators now.
Their offense was a disaster in the playoffs.
Yeah.
In that playoff game.
Well, the team, at that point, I thought the cancer infested the whole body.
They were a disaster.
But to me, the start of it was the defense.
Can I throw this out there? Maybe we anointed Jalen Hurts a little too early. I mean, I like Jalen Hurts, but let's not act like he has these same problems dating back to college. Like, he can throw the football, but he's not deadly accurate. You're not going to give Jalen Hurts the football and be like, oh, my goodness, it's 80 yards to go, and he got to lead him down the field. Like, I just don't know if Jalen Hurts is that dude. Like,
well, it goes to the whole talk about we anoint people all
real quick.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, even with C.J. Stroud, as great as he was, he's got to do it again.
Right. It wouldn't be unprecedented if C.J. took the route of Tua and Jalen, because I thought Tua was anointed too soon.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we've got to see it. You always say you want to see it a second year.
Yeah,
Hell,
at least.
3 years is better. Like, when you see it with 3 years with Herbert, you're like, okay.
I think when you get to 2, you know. I think when you...
You can do it with 2. I was with Burrow, I was there probably even before 2.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is another one. We gave Trevor Lawrence.
Yes,
that's true.
I've never been as high on him as everybody else.
Is he going to be that good? Yeah. I don't see it. It just, and it looks like he had a good year. He took a little bit of a step back, maybe some injuries involved. And then you throw that in the mix and you have a bad season.
And part of that, G, is Shane Steichen, who we just saw in Indianapolis get the most out of Gardner Minshew in a way we didn't expect. Was calling plays for Jalen Hurts last season. He goes, you lose your... I don't want to call him a superstar coach, but he was, as a rookie coach, did a phenomenal job in Indianapolis.
Yeah, he did.
They go to Brian Johnson, and the whole offense takes a step back.
But there was...
He just wasn't as good.
There was a drop-off.
There was regression.
Yeah,
there was regression.
And you know what? It's I think that's becoming more the rule. The guy like the Mahomes and the Burrow, who really didn't have that.
Yeah.
Everybody else has that at some point, because the league is reacting to what it is that you're doing.
Well, look at Lamar won an MVP, and then the last 2 years,
fell off.
Part of it because of injury, but he wasn't playing as well.
He was not.
Even when he was healthy, he wasn't as good, and now he's back to looking like one of the best quarterbacks of football.
I think he's looking better now than he ever has.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a pact to say, listen, I'm not. You know who's good? Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else.
I mean, he's in a class by himself.
I'm gonna just stop.
Well, 6 straight AFC Championship games.
Yeah,
you can't. He's in tier 1 by himself.
I agree with that.
Whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's nobody in his class.
And then there's Burrow and
Allen,
some other Allen,
yeah,
probably Herbert with the right. Who knows what Harbaugh's going to do there now? But I think they're going to have the biggest.
I think they're going to
year-in jump in wins.
See, we got.
There can be no more excuses for Herbert.
The roster is there, and now the coaches.
Hey, see, this is what happens, Cleveland Browns. All of a sudden, you got Harbaugh in your division. The team got a roster full of guys. They got pieces. We talked about it with Sean Marion yesterday. Same conference. And look, now you got more teams to compete with. Oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers is coming back. So I don't know how they're going to be.
And Burrow's going to be healthy.
Lamar Jackson is former MVP.
Well, you hope all these guys are healthy. Obviously, there's no guarantee, but at least going into the season, you think.
I do want to say the Eagles have also requested permission to interview Kellen Moore. So not just the Browns, but the Eagles, who just fired Brian Johnson, are now looking to bring in Kellen Moore.
There's a lot of moving parts right now because so many teams are looking for coordinators.
What is it, 9? Is it 8, 9?
It's 13, 14.
The Bengals just hired a coordinator. They promoted their quarterback
take them
coach.
Off. It's a dozen. It's a dozen right now.
And the head coaching jobs
coach
that are
Dan
still
Pitcher.
open.
Dan Pitcher?
Dan Pitcher. He was their quarterback coach the last 2 years.
What do you know about him? What should we know about him?
I know that Joe Burrow loves him, so that's
why he got the job.
All right, well,
Joe Burrow had a quote yesterday. They couldn't have picked a better. It would be impossible to pick a better guy.
All right, well, they're going to be a good then. Whatever. I was going to try to nitpick, and Joe Burrow likes him. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, if we had to go right now, just based on the limited knowledge that we have with Johnson, are we thumbs up or thumbs down on Johnson?
I mean, overall, when he was there, yes, everything fell apart on that team at the end of the year. I'm blaming Sirianni for that. I know he's been able to blame the coaches. He threw Brian Johnson right under the bus.
I know he did.
Talk about Stump Mitchell. I mean, Sirianni threw his OC right under the bus.
I think Sirianni's on his last leg there.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, when you fire both your coordinators,
it's all on you now.
It's all on you now.
Wasn't he coach of the year last year, Sirianni?
Was. Dude, no. Yeah, 2022.
Yeah.
Not 23.
From coach of the year to maybe he's on the hot seat now.
It's not the first time we've seen
quick.
that. Life comes at you fast in the NFL.
And here's what I give Stefanski credit for over some of these other dudes. You don't see Stefanski. I got a lot of respect for him for this. We talked about it a little bit after the show. I was begging on the drum to get rid of your boy, we'll say Joe Woods, the second when he got here. We was talking about him after the Browns played the Chiefs. And we're like, how do you let them the 3rd and 14th with Chad Henne? How do you let that happen? But I'll give Stefanski credit. You know what he did? He said, look, I know he might not be the coach what we need to do right now at this point, but he let him finish the season. He didn't fire him in the season because he knows that isn't proper etiquette. And it lights people up to say, you know what? It's the dumpster fire over there. Because why are you firing guys in the middle of the season? That means you made a bad decision. What he did, let him finish it out, gave him never said anything bad about him, and then went on and hired somebody else.
And by the way, Joe Woods did a decent job in Seattle. I mean, in New Orleans.
Because he did that.
Seems like, at least.
Joe Woods was able to get another job. If you get fired in the middle of the season, that means it's a failure.
Harder, yeah.
That means it's like you can't even be worked with professionally. So now you look at Sirianni, he won a coach of the year, but when you start getting guys moving out in the middle of the year, you start throwing people under the bus, people start side-eye you a little bit.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Woods in New Orleans because I was actually thinking about that driving in. It didn't work here.
Yeah.
But it's better there. And
right.
sometimes
we're not paying as close attention. But,
no, but
they finished 9-8 or 8-9?
Better than they expected.
Yeah, right. Well, that's for sure.
And their defense was pretty solid.
Yeah. And I kind of make the same point with Brian Johnson. When you say, how do you feel about it? I'm like, well, it doesn't excite me necessarily, but you never know if a different fit, how a guy fits. Right. And in this instance, nobody knows the Eagles better than Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. Berry came from there, and Stefanski grew up there and loved the Eagles and knows the organization well. That's why Philly was here for joint practices. So there's a reason they're bringing this guy in. And I think in this instance, you would defer. If you have apprehension about it, I think you would defer to the guys that know that organization pretty well.
That's true.
For why they'd want to bring him in. Is it sent you off the meter? No, not necessarily. But
is there anybody that would go bananas
for? The whole thing.
Just a couple of guys.
The whole thing is strange, and some of the names that came out early, you're like, at least I did. I think we talked about this when I called in the other day. Yeah. Like, well, that's not a play caller. Well, that's not a play caller. Yeah. Well, that's not a play caller. So what are you doing here, Kellen Moore? Maybe.
He's been a play caller.
Yeah, maybe. He has been a play caller. Right. I mean, in terms of
right. Oh,
coming off the year he came off of, though, with the tools that he had there, maybe not so much.
To me, Brian Johnson.
Yeah. Brian Johnson, correct.
Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, like they're probably perfectly fine candidates. If I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm not taking a backseat play call.
No way. No, I don't want to see
what
that.
What if you said, not Brian Johnson this year, but the Eagles Super Bowl run, Brian Johnson? Would you take that guy?
Well, he was a quarterback coach.
He wasn't the coordinator then?
No, he was not.
Oh, well, okay.
Steichen was the coordinator.
Sorry,
if we want
buddy.
to talk about play call, let me do a read real quick, then we can get into how that affects what the Browns do next year. But if you're watching the YouTube show right now, we appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Do us a favor, help us out on the back end. It is completely free. Cost you $0, 0 cents, and everyone from UCSS would really appreciate it. You talk about play callers. Kevin Stefanski has been the play caller for the Browns for the last 4 seasons. They've interviewed some candidates, as Jason just alluded to, who have called plays in the past, some who have not. You could add more. You could add Johnson to the list, but the question for here is, and we'll start with this one because it's a two-parter, should Kevin Stefanski be the play caller next season? And I know there's the variable of they don't have an OC yet, but all things equal, should he be?
Yeah. I mean, I think he did a great job last year.
If we went back in time to 2 years ago and these two said Stefanski should be the play caller, knocked me over with a feather.
As G. Bush always says, as you get new information into the system, and you're not willing to pivot, then you're insane.
Well, that's what's good about this show. We have nobody that's so pig-headed they can't change their mind.
No,
I am.
Just ask Houston fans.
You're most likely to kill someone, which we haven't discussed since that day I said that. It's probably me. Actually.
There was a point in his tenure here where I thought he was not doing a good job calling plays.
Sure.
I had even advocated that he should become the CEO and bring in someone, and he should manage the whole thing and let someone else handle the play calling, and same thing with the defense, as he does on the defensive side. I've changed my mind because this year, with what he had to work with, 1 wide receiver, 5 quarterbacks. What the hell? How can you not
No tackles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's earned the right. You lose Nick Chubb. Somehow he's putting the pieces that he had and making a puzzle out of it. And that's what good coaches do.
And I think at this point, if your ownership, the GM, whoever's making the decision, you got to say, do you trust Stefanski? Well, I don't know how you couldn't. And if you do trust him, then you've got to allow him to make that decision. There are coaches who have called plays, and sometimes they change their mind, and then they let an assistant call plays, and maybe that will happen. But I think he's earned the right, in my opinion, if I were Jimmy Haslam, I would say, hey, Kevin, decide. You want to keep calling plays?
Do you think that's going to happen? Because I agree with you. I think that it should be up to him. But they've already said if Kevin's not calling plays, it's because Kevin doesn't want to.
Right.
Well, we know what play calling means to Kevin.
Right. I don't believe.
So I'm not going to buy it if Kevin suddenly steps forward and says, you know what, my play calling days are over. I'm going to be the CEO. Yeah. I'm going to bring a new guy. I won't buy that.
I think we're all influenced by things we've heard off the record.
That's exactly right.
And we've heard enough things off the record from more than one person that tells me that if Kevin Stefanski's not calling plays, it was pushed on him.
I agree.
Now, I don't know. We don't know that. At least I don't with 100% certainty. But I've heard it from enough people that I trust very much that I think it's pretty safe to say that if he loses his play calling, it was not his call. So I hope that doesn't happen. But no, I don't feel confident that it's not going to happen.
Man, I'll save that analogy for when we get to that. But the case for Kevin Stefanski keeping his play calling ability is, I said yesterday or a couple days ago, we argued over Deshaun Watson, and I said he's only played 11 games, right? And if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're gonna want to go to the front office and say, hey, look, you telling me in only 11 games while he's not practicing, I got to give up play calling? I haven't even worked with the guy.
That's true.
I haven't even worked with him.
Not even a full season.
He couldn't practice half that season. Then he got hurt. We was trying to mask and mismatch and make sure that he could stay on the field. So I don't know why I would give up play calling for 11 games when, guess what? I need the opportunity to work with him. And also, Stefanski will know more about his personnel than anybody else that comes in there. Right? He knows what their skill sets are, weaknesses, and strengths, right?
He's been here, of course.
So that informs your play calling when you want to call and dial certain things up because you know the personnel. Another guy's going to be blind to it. He's just going to come in and say, well, I'm going to run this play, you run that. And obviously, Stefanski's going to have some say, But I think that would be his main drawback and his rebuttal to saying, like, look, I know the team, I know how to call plays, and like Jason says, I'm moldable. I know the game of football. Football, I can learn from anybody. I'll bring somebody in to learn, and I can implement that on the field. I'm not rigid. So in that case, it makes a pretty good case to not give it up.
I've been trying to avoid this conversation because, and Bull, you alluded to it, you hear so many things, and it's hard. Like this stuff, I'm going to sound like I'm getting on a soapbox. I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, but it's hard sometimes to get to the root of the truth. And in my role, that's what you try to do. You try to get to the truth, no matter where that. But in a lot of instances, this is a great example. It's a lot of he said. So which side are you going to believe? And it's hard to get to the truth. And yes, we've heard a bunch of stuff. I've heard a bunch of stuff about this, but nothing that I have been able to confirm and get over the line to be able to report it and come out here and talk about it. And I agree with what you said. A lot of what, it sounds like it would be taken from him, not necessarily he'd give it up. This is the only thing that I would say that maybe that there is validity to that he would willingly give it up. He did say on the record last year, I think it was in that Pardon My Take podcast, but at some point, I know he said on the record, play calling is exhausting. You have to make a decision every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's true. It's right. As soon as that plays over.
While making other macro decisions. What the hell's the defense doing? What if.
And he did say it's exhausting. Now, maybe he has gotten to the point in his career where he says it's not worth it and I need to, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's. But yeah. I know that he has said that publicly on the record in the past.
But there's also plenty of statements that he's made in the past that lead all of us to believe that he really enjoys play calling and wants to continue play calling. So he himself has been. It's a little bit of a mixed message.
And that's why I go back to it's so hard sometimes for us to come out here, at least for me. Because I like to say definitively, this is what I know.
Sure.
This is what I know. This is what this is what I'm reporting. And in instances like this, there's so much noise out there that it makes it very difficult to be able to come out and say definitively, this is what happened, this is why they're doing that.
Okay, so let's separate, and this is hard for you because you deal in the world of facts. And in the media space, what we've seen more often as we've moved along the continuum is we've gone, as an industry, away from facts and into takes and opinions.
Yeah.
So let me ask you strictly an opinion now. I'm not asking you as a reporter who is supposed to dig for facts.
Yep.
Your opinion. Do you think he will be the play caller? Do you think he should be the play caller?
Honestly, truly, I don't know if he will be. I think he should be.
Okay.
And
that's my answer, by the way.
Assuming he wants to be still.
Assuming he wants to be. But if, gun to my head, I have to decide right now, yes or no, is he going to be the play caller? I would say no.
I will say real quick, Jason, Mary Kay just tweeted that this is a quote from Mary Kay. Kevin Stefanski would likely have to turn play calling duties over to Kellen Moore to lure him here as an offensive coordinator.
I'd rather have Kevin Stefanski calling plays than Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
What do we need to
Kellen Moore for?
Especially coming off the season that he's coming off of in LA. It's not like he set the world on fire and he had all the assets, all the tools.
Yeah.
Especially because he had a DC as the head coach.
Right. So he was calling
So
plays.
he was the Jim Schwartz. He was the Jim Schwartz of the Chargers offense.
And even before Herbert got hurt, Herbert was having his worst year. And they were having their worst year as an offense since Herbert's been there.
And again, that doesn't mean he's one bad year.
No, but it's not like he's a guy, oh my God, we can't lose him.
Yeah, we've got to give him play calling to get him. Well,
right.
You do that at the peril of upsetting and potentially losing Kevin Stefanski. Am I making too much of the fact, because I've had one person tell me yes and one person tell me no, that they answered the extension contract the way they did, Andrew Berry, the other day. We like Kevin. And that we're more than a week removed from the end of the season and there hasn't been any talk of we're in negotiations. Or this. That concerns me a little bit.
I don't think it's Andrew's call.
That concerns me even more.
But no, but I've made this point multiple times. Kevin was here first.
I understand.
Andrew's the boss,
but it wouldn't be the first
time. But Kevin was here first.
But it's happened. There are examples of GMs that were brought in after the coach that later got rid of the coach.
Yeah, but was it really the GM or was it higher up?
Well,
and that's why I think in this instance, I don't think it's Andrew's decision to hand Kevin the contract. I think it's Jimmy and Paul.
Do you think it should be AB's decision? Because I do. I think that falls under his job description. A good owner hires good people and then gets the hell out of the way.
Agreed. And in this instance, though, I think that would be. I know you're going to throw that clipboard at me. I think it'd be Paul. Because if you're hiring good people and good people you believe in, and again, I think Paul's role should be identifying those people. That's his role should not be what they do on 3rd and 6. Paul's role should be building the structure of the organization, identifying talent, identifying smart people, putting them in leadership positions, and then moving on. I'm not saying that is his role, but I think that should be his role. So
I think Kevin Stefanski, if you play in the Game of Thrones, sometimes you got to fall back. Sometimes you got to let go. Let it go. That's that Frozen. I'm sure you got kids. You all seen that.
Oh, I sang that song for years.
Let it go. Look, it may seem like a step back, but here's how you spin it. The last time you was in control of the offense, your team went to the playoffs with all these backups. If they want you to take a step back and give it to somebody else, sure. Let me go ahead and take 2 steps back. Now what you do is you put the onus and the responsibility on those who are now in the offense.
Yeah, but let me give you one piece of information that might change that. Last year, the guy who was the offensive coordinator but didn't call the plays got fired.
Mm-hmm. So this year...
So who's going to be... If he's not calling the plays next year, why couldn't he be fired too?
I don't think he would be fired. You know who the play would go down on? The offensive coordinator, Deshaun Watson.
It always goes down on the head coach. It can't go down on Deshaun. He's guaranteed for 3 more years.
Yeah. Here's another thing too. If it goes down like that, and sometimes you in organizations, sometimes it's not a good fit because they set you up. Yeah. So maybe his place is somewhere else that's better suited at the end of the day.
I think Kevin's off the hot seat, right? Like we can all agree on that. But to Jay's point, I think I can say that Freddie was one of them. I remember talking to Freddie. Freddie's like, if I'm going down doing it my way. Like
that's the way you should.
I'm calling the plays.
Jackson said the same thing.
Yeah. Like who was the OC when Freddie was here? Munkin, wasn't it Munkin?
Yeah, I
think it was.
But Freddie called the plays.
I'd forgotten about
Freddie called the plays, and Freddie's like, if I'm going down, I'm doing it my way.
Right.
And he did go down.
But
he did it his way.
But the idea that
I did it my way.
The idea that the owner would say, hey, you've lost your play calling duties, you got to bring in an OC that
to me is a real slap on the credentials.
That's just if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm like, we just had a season where if I don't win Coach of the Year, I'm certainly in the conversation for it. And you're taking you're saying something negative about me.
You're replacing me.
You've lost faith in me.
You're replacing me.
By the way, a coach who wins Coach of the Year twice in 4 years is making like $15 million on his next contract.
Do you know how many times it's ever happened?
I bet once or
a handful. I went back and looked. It's been I think Belichick did it a couple times, right?
No,
Rivera?
actually, I have a graphic. Steve, give me 242. It's happened 6 times in NFL history.
Wow, I
wouldn't
have guessed that
3
many
times in the last 40 years. A couple of them.
Well, let's see the names that have done it.
Rivera, right?
Bruce Arians most recently, 2 times in 4 years. So if Stefanski wins it this year, it'll be the 2nd time in 4 years. Bruce Arians in 2012, 2014. Mike Ditka, 85, 88. Joe Gibbs, 82, 83. Then you got to go all the way back to Ali Sherman, Don Shula, and George Hallis.
All right.
That's it?
That's
there's
2 times in 4 years. There's
list.
a bunch of guys that have done 2 times in 5 years.
Okay.
It's funny because you don't put I don't think of Bruce Arians as a great coach personally.
No,
I certainly
don't either.
think of Kevin Stefanski as a great coach. I think he's a good coach, but I wouldn't put him with
what surprises
Joe
me is
Gibbs.
that Belichick never did it, but there's always been a backlash against the guy that's just not just beating everybody, but boat racing the whole thing.
Well, you have the greatest
guys
of all
who
time.
are the most surprising teams, not the best.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say this later, but, as I went to counseling back in the day, I would go to a counselor and he would say, when I got married, he'd say, hey, you're supposed to change when you get married, right? And I said, yeah, I am changed. He said, no. He said, you've been in this meeting and you've mentioned 4 or 5 other different groups of people. You've mentioned your mom, your dad, your family, your friends, your coworkers.
You never mentioned yourself.
You haven't mentioned your wife.
Oh.
And when you get married, your wife is right there with you. Nobody comes before your wife at all. And in the world of football, no one comes before the quarterback. We had a bunch of girlfriends. We had no wives at quarterback. We gave Deshaun Watson a bunch of money. We are married for better or worse.
We didn't have girlfriends. We had one-night stands.
One night, right.
Yeah, with an ugly chick at 3 in the morning.
And STDs and penicillin shots.
We are here with this wife. And
they're stuck with us. We're the ugly guy.
We're not arguing, but Deshaun Watson is who you're married to. So Jimmy Haslam, whether he likes Kevin Stefanski or not, or he likes what the other team and pieces of parts are, you have to side with your wife.
Well, that's a great point, G, because Jimmy Haslam's legacy is in the balance here.
Yes.
His legacy to this point is unsatisfactory. Or to use your word, underwhelming.
Well, I would say, it's shocking.
If he's going to turn it around, it's going to be with number 4.
That's it. He already made his money.
We would say that. There are a lot of fans that think Jimmy's a great owner.
Well, and I know exactly where that goes.
Yeah.
That is.
Again,
I mean, it's out there.
From our UCSS poll, he was the best owner in town.
And even if you didn't put it that way, because in that poll you have to pick somebody.
Well, there were 3 choices. One of them has won a championship. One has done a lot with little.
You could argue at this point that you don't like any of the owners here.
Well, that's a very good argument.
But if you just put a poll up, is Jimmy Haslam a good owner? Yes or no? You would get at least 50% would say yes.
You want to do it right now?
Give it a shot.
Do it.
Let it ride.
Also, Bill Belichick is on that list. He did. I counted wrong, so it's 7.
Okay.
But his was 4 apart. It was 07
I think Rivera
to a 10.
did too. I just texted you. I'm almost positive.
Ron Rivera?
Yeah. Ron Rivera. Yeah, I'm telling you. I just looked this up.
Could it have been with 2 different teams?
Maybe.
It was with 2 different. Would have had to be.
I'll look up the Rivera one in a second.
I think it was Rivera. I think he's on that list too.
All right.
And when you hear about it, you hear about Kraft, like Belichick. I was watching ESPN the other day. He said, you know what, Bill Belichick right now, Robert Kraft is second-guessing the decision to let Bill Belichick run Tom Brady out of town. He said, Bill told me this guy couldn't play anymore.
He said that?
Here I see him winning championships.
Wait, he said that publicly? I didn't see that.
No.
That's what people are saying.
No, go read the Seth Wickersham story.
I didn't see
it's
that yet.
phenomenal on how it unraveled.
And so,
because yes, it's in that story that Rivera Kraft says he told me Tom couldn't play anymore.
And when you see that, and now there's a reason why Bill is only getting these little interviews with the Falcons. I mean, do you want to give him, turn it all over to him? To me, we had the lifelong situation that says, which is more important, the quarterback or the head coach?
It's the quarterback.
It's the quarterback.
If you have the right quarterback.
If you got the right guy.
If you have the right quarterback.
It's the quarterback.
Right. Yes, if you have a mid-tier or bottom quarterback, then it's the coach.
Well, I would say there's only a handful of examples in recent memory where an organization picked the coach.
Yeah.
And obviously, in Kansas City, let me ask you this. What if Andy Reid walked in tomorrow and said, it's me or it's Patrick?
Bye, Andy.
Bye, Andy.
Yeah.
We love having you here, but good luck wherever you go.
Yeah.
But now this comes back to the 6 straight conference title games. Deshaun won playoff win. There's quite a gap here in what we're talking about. He's got the contract. He's got the ring. But he ain't got the resume.
Right. That's so and now you sometimes.
Which is why I was so surprised he got the contract. Well, typically the resume comes before the contract.
They were so desperate.
With second contract.
They were so desperate.
I know a lot of people that their wife died, they're mid-50s, got a lot of money on their hands, and they meet somebody walking up looking 25, shapely.
Robert Kraft.
They make a whole lot of bad decisions.
Every billionaire in America.
Robert Kraft.
You're right.
Hey, Jay's like, that's half my friends. Stop that. I'm still working out for the comedy show. I'm still working for the comedy show, man. I was just joking.
I would laugh at that. Because you probably ain't wrong.
Yeah, I set it up cool. Like, go ahead.
Oh, just wait till you hit that midlife.
Oh, listen. You start first. It starts with shoes, then it goes to cars, then it's backyard renovations.
Yeah.
But to get back to the 30 for 30 on Deshaun and Baker and all that.
Oh my God,
is going to be phenomenal.
It will.
Because it's going to cover about a 20-year period, because you can't tell the Baker story without saying all the L's, because they're going to put Johnny in there.
Oh, for sure.
Brandon Whedon.
Like Johnny's
trapped under the flag.
Oh, my gosh.
But really, you're right, there's a big scope there. But when you hone in on the dynamics and the cities that were touched by it,
right?
Carolina, L.A., tangentially for a minute, Tampa, Houston, Cleveland, there is so much going on with the fallout from the Baker-Deshaun decision that I think before it becomes a 30 for 30, Baker has to solidify himself as a starter into his 30s, because if he disappears, people will forget. And I think Deshaun has to have some kind of a turnaround here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one hell of a 30 for 30.
The butterfly effect. If Carolina guarantees the whole contract, Deshaun's in Carolina right now. Period.
Yeah.
Repeat that.
If Carolina was willing to guarantee the whole contract, Deshaun would be in Carolina. Carolina flat out told him.
Wow.
I wrote that.
So they were the other team?
Well, there was four. There was New Orleans, Atlanta, Carolina,
Miami?
and Cleveland.
What's a little troubling to me about that is none of those four franchises are known, although Atlanta maybe I would throw out, but the other three, and Atlanta was his hometown.
So
I think the other three, they're not known for making great decisions.
No,
Carolina right now can't get out of its own way.
I know.
Well, who would have been we don't know who would have been the Browns quarterback.
Well, that's the butterfly effect of the whole thing.
You assume you would have stuck with Baker for another year.
Although Kevin has said he was ready to move forward with Baker, thought he could win with Baker.
He was under contract.
Yeah, but what's he going to say? I mean, what else is he going to say? But remember, when the Browns tried and initially failed for Watson, that's when Baker wanted to be traded. Even before they actually made the trade.
It was after word came out that they were making a strong play because Baker said he was lied to.
Yeah.
What's the truth on that? We may never know.
Baker was at a Morgan Wallen concert with Wyatt Teller when he found out that the Browns were going to see Deshaun. Yeah. Like, that's how he found out. Right. They were at a concert. It's just, that's what I'm saying. Like, the little nugget details of this whole thing will be fascinating.
Wyatt will have a role in
You would have had all these draft picks. Let's say Baker had the same season he had last year, just for example.
Okay.
Well, the Browns would have let him walk.
Sure.
Now, if he had a good year, they would have probably kept him. But if he had the same year as last year, he would have walked. The Browns would have had first-round picks. It probably would have been somewhat high. Maybe they would have drafted. Who knows? We'll never know.
The butterfly effect is crazy off the whole thing.
Or look at it this way.
Yeah.
What if he had the year that he had in Tampa this year?
Right.
Like, then he gets his extension. They would have signed him
to an extension.
He gets his he does.
So we'll never know.
What if he just took the reported $30 million that was on the table?
Was it ever that high?
No,
I never heard it was that high. I heard it was in the 20s.
No.
In the lower 20s.
So 22 a year?
I just heard low 20s.
Yeah.
So if they offer you $22 million a year, and at the time he probably was like,
I talked to people who were in Houston with the Texans. I shouldn't say one. I talked to one person who was fairly high up with the Texans, who was part of the negotiations with the trade, who thought he was going to New Orleans. They thought, like, the Texans organization thought he would wind up in New Orleans. And then when Carolina wouldn't guarantee the whole contract, it flipped everything. And I wrote that. That's how the Browns got back into it. When Carolina refused to guarantee the whole thing, that's when Cleveland got back into it.
See, what was interesting to me, and this was just on the sidelines and watching it from a distance, and not calling or talking to anybody. To me, I thought the worm turned when he had come out and said, Cleveland's off my list. And Baker had come out and said, I want out of there. To me, I'm like, uh-oh, Deshaun's going to get the bank and Baker is out. Because at that point, Cleveland couldn't continue the marriage with someone that they had already that found out through a friend that you were cheating on you.
Because I remember that, and everyone's saying, oh, my God, the building's on fire. The Browns have done it again.
It was literally the next day we heard about this deal.
I kind of looked at it as like, guys, the building's not on fire. Like, the Browns, of all those four finalists that we're talking about, the only one that had a quarterback, an established quarterback, was the Browns.
Right.
And they chose to go down this path anyway. That tells you all you need to know. They had made up their mind on Baker for the long term. They knew the blowback and the ramifications once this got out that they were one of the teams. They knew how this was going to play out publicly. They knew it was going to get ugly, and they did it anyway. So, I mean, if Deshaun would have wound up in Carolina, New Orleans, or anything else, maybe Baker, they could say, Baker, you got a contract. You're contracted to be here. What are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to sit out?
And I'm just supposition, but I would suppose that Baker, even if the Deshaun thing fell through, because he would have had to, contractually, would have gotten over it and would have come back with this chip on his shoulder.
Well, that's what you want. That's what you want. You want motivated Baker.
I am playing my ass off, and I am leaving you and going to Pittsburgh.
And they would have said, okay, fine, we'll take that.
And it'll be interesting next year when not everybody's crapping on him again. Can he follow it up? Because he has not been able to do that in his career.
No, but not 2 years in a row, no.
Right. So circling back to wrap it up, Mike, because I know we got to move.
Yep.
What I would do is hire a young offensive coordinator. I would keep calling plays if I were Stefanski.
Yes.
I'd bring the guy along, see how this year goes, and maybe as time goes by, consider turning the reins over to this young guy.
All for that.
As he's part of my program. You know what I'm saying?
The hire that they've made that I'm most excited about is actually Tommy Rees. I think he's a rising star.
We talked about him yesterday.
He's a rising star in the coaching ranks. And
he's someone I could see him being a head coach in a few years.
Yeah, he's on that path. He's on that trajectory.
I believe they will bring in a more seasoned veteran offensive coordinator. I don't think Kevin Stefanski will call the plays. I think this guy will call plays. And I think Tommy Rees is a guy who is in the wings that could be jettisoned and moved to offensive coordinator, whether the guy performs worse or bad. I think right now the higher-ups are saying this. Listen, we want Deshaun Watson to have a new voice. Sometimes new voices are good, sometimes they're bad. We'll see how it works. I don't see any crazy names that I'm seeing now that would make me excited. But at the end of the day, we'll see how it works. Maybe it's new people, new personnel.
Before we move on, I know we have to. I want to wrap this up with one question because I asked someone this yesterday. Do you think that if he is stripped, Kevin Stefanski is stripped of his play calling duties, that he gets to the point where he says, you know what, I can't remain here. I can't do this anymore.
No, I think Kevin's too pragmatic, and I think Kevin's best skill set to me ain't even calling plays. It's the fact that he has a calming persona and presence in the locker room.
It would be an un-Kevin-like move,
and people play hard for him.
Is there any chance?
I think he should do that. I don't think he will. I
feel the same way. If I were Kevin, that's just my nature. I would, if Jimmy Haslam said you lost your play calling, I said, well, you lost your coach. That's what I'd go up, I'd quit.
But,
I don't think he'll do that.
He spent 13 years in Minnesota under how many different regimes?
Right.
It all didn't go his way.
Sure.
At those moments.
But now he's the head coach.
Yeah, I know.
And the person that I asked that very question said, I'm not going to rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out. That's how important play calling is to Kevin, and everything that he has heard from Kevin himself leads him to believe that he does not want to give up play calling.
Yeah.
So now maybe he has had a change of heart suddenly.
Yeah.
But I
would, if I were him. If that was forced on me, I would quit.
I would walk.
Yeah.
I would walk.
I would too, because to your point, even if he doesn't win Coach of the Year this year, he's the finalist. He's one of two right now. If he doesn't win it, the line to hire Kevin Stefanski will form immediately.
I just think, wouldn't he have done it already? If he knew, if we already knew it was being forced.
The jobs are being filled.
Yeah.
Right.
If he walked, teams would fire their coach to hire him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
Because how many teams need a head coach right now?
If I'm Philly, I'd hire him in a second. I'd fire Sirianni and I would hire Kevin Stefanski.
How many coaching jobs still open? Carolina?
5.
Falcons, Carolina.
Well, there was 6 before the Chargers, I thought.
Seattle still open?
Seattle is
right.
still open.
Seattle, Carolina, Atlanta.
I thought it was 5. Maybe I miscounted.
Am I wrong, or is this whole thing drag? I mean, I know you got to get through the Super Bowl, but it feels like this is dragging out.
It's usually the big domino. Like once and I think Harbaugh was the big domino.
Yeah.
So now that
Belichick out there, Vrabel.
It is, but I'm just wondering. I'm hearing that Vrabel might take a year.
You know what? I wondered if Vrabel would take a year to see what happens in Columbus.
So I've heard from a mutual friend that don't be surprised if. And I said, did Mike say that? And he said, we've talked this through a million different ways. So he didn't say anything definitively.
The timing
one
is
of the options was I'm going to take a year.
The timing
that's why you take a year.
The timing is perfect. If he wants the Ohio State job, and I don't know if I've never talked to Mike Vrabel about this.
I don't know that Mike does.
I don't know that he does either.
Because the way coaching in college has changed in 3 years.
I still think Ohio State is different. I still think that's a different job than even Michigan. That's a different job.
Different payroll.
But if at any point in his life he wants the Ohio State job, he'll take a year off and just wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Because he can get back in like that.
Yeah,
He'd be hired by
rumor was
a
he
number
was
of
a
teams.
finalist in L.A.
He's interviewed a couple of times.
He has interviewed, but he has not accepted
It's interesting, and then we'll move on. Belichick's only interview has been Atlanta, right?
Yeah. And
like
that we know of.
I mean, the guy wants 15 wins, right? He wants to pass
Don Shula.
Shula, and then what? And then what are you getting out of him? But Arthur Blank is 82, and who knows how much longer he has left.
Do you have to give up the whole organization to get him? Do you have to let him be GM? Because at this point, I'd never let him be GM.
Well, Jimmy joked on the air the other day when we said that he had his second interview in Atlanta, and Jimmy laughed and goes, let's face it, Atlanta had its second interview with Bill. Bill is asking them the questions.
Well, it looks like it's Atlanta or nothing for him.
It almost does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is crazy. If you guys want more content that's not necessarily Browns, some more Guardian stuff, some more Cavs stuff, some more Culture Sports Combo, then we got some exciting new shows coming up next month for you. We're launching a family of Ultimate shows. G. Bush will be hosting the Ultimate Browns. We're looking for a Ultimate Guardians host. Jason and myself are hosting the Ultimate Cavs show, and Earl the Pearl is hosting the Ultimate 216 show. That's going to be a daily show, once a week for each of them, but we'll have 5 days of content. It's going to air in the nighttime, not from 11 to 1. You're not going to miss any UCSS content, but some more team-specific shows are coming to a YouTube feed near you guys very, very, very soon. We're excited about that. The first one is the Ultimate Cavs show on February 2nd, so make sure y'all tune in. We talked about all the coaching changes, what could happen, the open jobs. One job we know is filled now is the Browns running back position. Duce Staley has agreed to become the Browns' new running back coach, replacing Stump Mitchell, who had his media tour on the way out. It's a position coach. They already have Nick Chubb, so for the sake of this discussion, let's all assume Nick Chubb gets back to 100%. What do you think, if anything, Duce Staley can unlock that we haven't seen from Nick Chubb yet?
I don't think anything, but I could be wrong. What is he going to tell them that is suddenly going to make a light go off for Nick Chubb?
Okay, but it just how I look at this. It's not Nick Chubb. It's Jerome Ford.
It's the other guys.
It's Pierce. Nobody is hailing Bill Callahan as this great O-line coach because of what he's done for Joel Bitonio.
Right.
It's what he did for the tackles.
So true.
So I don't look at this necessarily as what more is he going to get out of Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is greatness. What are you going to get?
Yeah.
I love the hire, by the way. I've heard, I don't know Duce Staley, never had one conversation with him.
I haven't either.
I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about him. And look what happens when you win, by the way, not to go off on a tangent, but when you win and when you show some form of stability with head coach, with GM, these top candidates now want to come to you. Tommy Reese wants to come here. Duce Staley wants to come here.
Right.
Duce Staley's choosing this job over the Jets job because probably some of the uncertainty over Robert Saleh. You're looking at that going, well, if I go there, I might be fired in a year.
Right.
This guy's going to be fired in a year, so now where am I going to go? Yeah. So this is what success and consistency and stability shows you. Is you start getting some of these guys. But I look at Duce. Okay, Duce, what can you do for Jerome Ford? Because I was more disappointed in Jerome Ford than almost any other player, I think, this year.
It's funny that you said that.
I
have him on my 3 most disappointing
Absolutely. He's on mine, too, because it was right there in front of him.
Yep.
He had all year, he had every opportunity to grab hold of that job and make the Browns say, you know what, we don't need Nick Chubb. And you know what the Browns are saying today? Oh, my God in heaven, how do we get Nick Chubb back?
That's exactly right.
And, I will say this. You're right. I agree with your general point. Yeah, he's more for the younger players, whether it's Ford or, who's somebody they may draft this year. But you never know, right? Like the Guardians hire a new hitting coach. Yeah, he's going to spend more time with their young, unproven hitters. Doesn't mean he can't give a tidbit to Jose Ramirez that might help him.
Of course.
Duce Staley, one thing he was really good at as a back was a pass catcher. He was a big-time pass catcher as a running back. That's the one thing in Nick Chubb's game that could probably use some improvement.
That's a good point.
Maybe he could help him with that aspect of his game. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, yes, in general, there's no reason as a veteran coach and a veteran player who played at a pretty high level in the NFL for a long time, he could certainly help all the young backs on the team.
Yeah, I go back to it. You can look at the relationship between Stump Mitchell and we like a lot of names around here in Cleveland. The relationship with Stump Mitchell and Kareem Hunt and sometimes all those guys. What stood out to me was that seemed kind of a chaotic relationship. If he didn't have to say anything about Kareem Hunt, but when he did, it opened him up to say, okay, well, why couldn't you get to Kareem Hunt? What was you talking to him about? What was the certain things?
He wasn't. That was a polite way to fall on the sword, but really he was cutting Kareem's head off.
Oh yeah,
sword.
just.
You weren't here. We talked about it.
It's crazy.
And I want you to circle back and talk about those comments. How surprised you were, A, that he did an interview. You never see that, but B, what he said.
And he said, and I wanted to ask you about.
And he volunteered it
in the interview with Cam Justice.
Yes, that was an interview. Yeah. So when he said they brought in a lot of guys, some of them I didn't agree with. He said they brought some guys in. I didn't necessarily ask for them or agree with it, but I tried. I said, what do you mean?
The Kareem thing is really interesting because I think he's not the only coach that had a problem with Kareem.
Kareem doesn't have a great reputation.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Especially now.
But like, and that it's part of the why I kept saying like he's got 3 wheels. He's got 3 wheels. Like, I wasn't the only one saying that.
I have a bet with Tyvis. I think he'll get another carry in the NFL. Tyvis said he is done.
Oh, he's done. No. He's done.
He'll never carry the ball in the NFL again.
He's done. He was done this year. The only thing that brought him back was the injury to Nick.
However, though, and you know this, there is he fills a need. And it's those short yardage situations that teams find themselves in.
He filled a role. He filled a role on this
not
team.
just a role. It's not like you're a third down pass catcher.
But this
puts points on the board.
Yeah, but
that comes at a premium.
It's not a role that's irreplaceable by someone else.
Now, what if all of the criticism publicly now, it's out there on boards and on video, what if Kareem finally, with this come to Jesus moment, gets in the lab, works his ass off, drops 15 pounds, and comes back? And so you're telling me no one is going to bring him in next year?
I would be surprised. I've learned to never say never.
On opening day.
I've gotten burned on that.
Opening day at least. Maybe the injuries.
I would be surprised if he's in camp with the team. I'll say that.
The way politics work in the game, that's why people don't talk about politics. The NFL is all about politics. When somebody gets on record and admonishes you, that means that is a scarlet letter. This guy, buy at your own risk, right?
Especially a guy with Stump's reputation.
But here's the thing. This is the thing. When Stump did that, I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, but Stump, they didn't give you the scarlet letter. Because they could have came out and said, the reason Stump Mitchell is up out of here is because he was undermining X, Y, and Z.
Well, we all heard about it, so they leaked that.
But they have to attach their name to it.
But, the situation, though, is, as Jason said, guys around the league know his reputation anyway. So my guess is that even without Stump saying what he said, that the powers that be already know that all that stuff.
Stump ain't the only one in that building that felt that way.
I will give you. I will say this, but it's like I think. Am I concerned about it, or is it something I'm surprised about? No. But I will say this: in this industry, I would look badly upon someone that's like saying, if I left this show, right, and then people will say, we know Adam Bull is a hothead. He says how he feels. And I leave the show, go to a new show, and I do a public interview and be like, Adam Bull, let me tell you what he was doing, X, Y, and Z. I try to tell him he was tripping.
Violating the code.
Like, whoa, people, Jason, like, that was Bush League, bro.
Yeah.
You could have left that at the house.
I was surprised he went there because, he wasn't even asked about it.
No,
right?
he just had that bullet in his chamber.
But that also tells you the level of
what he did.
Well, you know what?
He was wilding in.
Jay, will Stump work as at running backs coach again?
You would know better.
He did say he was 65.
Because he always had a good reputation.
He did.
And Nick Chubb, I'm told,
but if teams
really
feel like they can't trust him with information,
that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's what I think.
He's just throwing stuff out there.
I
he may have hurt his cause with that interview a little bit.
Here's the problem: the story that he was allegedly fired for leaking. He was one of 6 or 7 that had told media members the exact same thing.
What was the story?
I don't even know. What was the story?
Well, if you followed the course of the events, it appears to me that all of this was done. I can't say.
Jay, don't get.
I can't say because
Jay was dancing.
Jay was dancing.
I was trying to figure out a way to protect some people.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, don't do it. G. Bush, what do you think of the Duce Staley hire? Can he?
Jay was trying to get his knee. He was dancing. He was dancing. Don't you do it.
We're going to get Jay off the hot seat.
Don't you mess that money up.
What does Duce Staley do here?
Listen, man, I think Duce Staley, like you said, I think he's going to give a new voice. Because Jerome Ford left a lot of food on his plate. There was a lot of yards that could have been had. He had some bursts, and what he did, he has that long ability to get to the house. So some of them long runs that he has intoxicates you a little bit. You're like, man, if we could just get this kid to run between the tackles, It's the vision, the patience. There's times where Jerome Ford is just running. Shout out to Wyatt Teller's ankles and knees. He just running in the back of his knee. Just, I'm like, calm down, bro. The store ain't open yet. Just, the store not open. Don't be outside.
Stop banging on the door.
In front of Heinen's like, I want some food. No. Come on, he just cut back lanes. It's available for you. Patience, vision. Somebody need to sit down with him and get you some film and say, look, bro, you see this, read your blockers, set it up. Matter of fact, he should live with Nick Chubb because I just went back to see if I forgot how good Nick Chubb was.
You think Nick Chubb wants somebody living with him?
Well, he might. If Chubb, you can show up at Chubb's house, he might not tell you no. He don't speak at all. He just shrug his shoulders. All right,
come on in.
Come on in. I watch how Nick Chubb. I mean, it's a beautiful thing because there's times when there's nothing. Yes,
or
it is.
Is that learned?
No, it's instinct.
Because Leroy has said the exact same thing you just said, but he's like, some guys never learn it.
Somebody never get it. Trent Richardson should be a big time running back that had thousands of yards in this league.
By the way, that was every time I hear Trent Richardson, I smile because one of my biggest arguments, one of my biggest wins ever on the radio was
you said he was done when they traded him.
When the Browns traded him, Dustin and I agreed. We were like, they traded him for a first-round pick.
I remember they got a first-round pick.
We were like, that's
he did have 1,000-yard season.
He had 1,000 though.
He did. But his yards per carry were crappy. Yeah. It felt like he took forever to get to the holes.
And the eye test.
He just wasn't passing the eye test.
And analytically, they charted and said, listen, he had 1,000. He should have had 1,500.
And he stunk. I mean, his career completely went down the toilet.
Done.
When you talk about running backs' instincts, one of the best, and I'm not just saying this because he's been on the show, one of the best I've ever seen was Maurice. With the instincts.
Oh, Clarett?
Oh, my God. The ability, because I covered Ohio State. I was Ohio State beat writer that year. And he would, the way he would take a handoff and, like, wait.
Pause.
And you think, like, go. And he knew.
And then he would take these little pitter pats.
And the cutback. And the
jump steps.
How different it could have been.
The way that
in the NFL.
He's one of the biggest what-if stories I have ever seen in my life. And to your point, Jason, I'm really glad that you said that. He is a friend of the show. I've known him for years. You covered him at Ohio State. The one thing I'll say about Maurice Clarett that I think people are starting to realize now, he is not just an intelligent human being. His football IQ, and I had guys tell me this when he was a freshman at Ohio State, they were saying 3 or 4 games in, he's going to break every record that's ever been set at Ohio State. And they kept saying the same thing. Not only is his natural football IQ off the charts, I had coaches there that were telling me, this kid can't learn enough. He's a sponge. He asks all the right questions. He'll reach out blindly to anyone just to pick their brain about running the position.
The play against Michigan, I think it was like a wheel route down the sideline. He called it. He told Tressel, like, run this. I'm open. I'll be open.
Well,
he had a brilliant mind. I remember asking him maybe 3 or 4 games in. Stupid question by me, but in the moment, I said, have you ever been tackled for a loss? And he's like, what are you talking about? Of course I have. I'm like, well, I don't know. I ain't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it. Think about how likely it didn't happen in high school.
Think about how good you got to be legendary off 1 year. And by the way, that big time player show up in big. Listen, this guy Maurice Clarett was going against the greatest team I've ever seen assembled, and I got a good friend Mike Dawson on that team that was All-American 3 times, and I told him to his face, you got Andre Johnson. Listen, you talk about Kellen Winslow, McGahee. Yeah. I said, y'all in trouble. But Clarett gave him the swag. Like,
look at the quarterback they won with.
Yeah, Craig Krenzel. You know why they won that game? Because you talk about football IQ. Maurice stealing the ball from Sean Taylor.
One of the greatest plays you'll ever see.
Biggest play no one ever talks about.
I know, you're absolutely right. One of the greatest plays in a great game that you'll ever see.
From a great player, from a Hall of Fame player.
That's right.
By the way,
and it was a hustle play.
Yeah. 2 other players that had good NFL careers, but I think if they'd played later, they would have been another level, were Reggie Bush. If he had played 10 years later.
You're right, because the game has evolved so much.
And Randall Cunningham, who was really good. But if he had played in the last 10 years instead of when he played, forget about it.
For me, I know everybody says it goes back to Fran Tarkington, but if you go watch old tape, Fran would be an average quarterback today when it comes to scrambling skills.
He ain't Randall Cunningham.
Randall Cunningham, when I watched his game, I said, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything even.
And he had a good career, but if he had played now, forget about it.
Michael,
he's Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
In the hood, Randall Cunningham was like Michael Jordan, bro.
Yeah.
Like, not saying like he had the skill, but cultural phenomenon, dudes running around, jumping over people, running around. Cunningham was crazy.
He has the. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the numbers don't back this up. But to me, I think of him as the athleticism of Lamar Jackson with the arm of Josh Allen.
He could throw the ball 80 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. He was just the freakiest of freaks.
All right, Mike.
We're talking Myles Garrett here in a sec, and he was just named literally in the last 45 seconds one of the 5 finalists for the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year.
Did those come out today?
The finalists came out. Kevin Stefanski also a finalist for Coach of the Year.
Any others for the Browns? Probably not.
They've only done, it's going in chronological
order.
order.
Who are the finalists for both those awards?
I wonder about the Rosa. Is that what?
I'll do the read real quick, and then we'll talk about it because it includes Myles. But FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and as the NFL regular season wraps up, there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the best part about FanDuel is it's simple to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can build parlays in the new Parlay Hub. You can find bets in the Explorer tab and so much more. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And shout out to Legend 10 Villain for this winning ticket. Ooh. On Tuesday night, Legend 10 Villain put $2.50 on the exact score of the Clippers-Lakers game, 127-116.
What? I didn't know you could do that.
$2.50 into $902.50.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
360-1 odds on the exact score.
Wow.
In the Clippers-Lakers game, the Clippers won 127-116.
I'm
Legend
surprised
10
it wasn't
Villain
even a bigger long shot than 350 to 1.
You could corner that market, though. There's a way that you could just hedge that bet.
But that's crazy. That's a great bet.
Possible
Great
score
win.
between 120 to 119.
Yeah.
120. It would still cost you money, but I bet you could. It feels like you would end up making money in that.
Send me that formula, Jay.
I'm going to work on it tonight.
Stop playing with me. And
crazy win.
This is not going to be on the FanDuel pick'em by us. This is just
underneath. Nuts.
I want to look at that. I'll see
$2.50.
what the combinations are. If there's 100 combinations at, what was his bet?
$250 to win $902.
He won 902, but how much did he bet?
$250.
Okay, so
100 times 2 is what, $400?
Yes, but at 250, you could still make
$500 if you bet 200.
I'm going to get into this because I love numbers, and I think you can. That might be a backdoor to cornering bets.
Well, but the score could end up 98, 96.
Well, here's the variable.
It could also end up in the 80s, 70s.
It could.
There's a million possibilities.
What you would have to do is look at what the average, what I would do. I would look at the average points scored for both teams.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I would go plus or minus 10 on either way and corner everything in between.
Yeah.
Well, if you have the time to do that, good for you. If you win it, send us the bets.
I'm going to look into it, guys.
I appreciate it.
I got
and then
the
I'll
bag.
make 10 practice bets.
I got the bag.
And I'll see how many I win.
Similar to that? Well, no. It'll
go ahead, Mike.
Go.
I'll
go off on
NFL just announced its finalists for its awards. Okay. Myles Garrett, one of the 5 finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, alongside T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, and Deron Bland, the defensive back for the Cowboys, who had the pick-6 record this season. Kevin Stefanski, a finalist for Coach of the Year, and Joe Flacco, a finalist for Comeback Player of the Year. We'll talk about those other awards another day. Today,
can you give us the other finalists?
Give us the finalists,
categories?
What's funny is the NFL tweeted out some of them. They have not tweeted out the list, other than Mary Kay tweeting that he's one of the finalists.
Remember, they didn't talk about.
Yeah, I know.
So when it comes out, I'll tell you guys. The NFL hasn't actually put out the 5 finalists,
Okay.
but. Yesterday, before we knew Myles was officially a finalist, he was named the Pro Football Writers Association Defensive Player of the Year. He's been the PFF Defensive Player of the Year. Assistant Coach of the Year, Jim Schwartz is one of the 5 finalists, alongside Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Todd Monken, and Bobby Slowick. Here's Coach of the Year: Stefanski, Shanahan, DeMeco Ryans, John Harbaugh, and Dan Campbell. And I still don't see Comeback Player of the Year, so I'll keep a lookout for that.
Why is Shanahan on there?
But the 49ers are the best team in the league?
But usually it's a team that's surprisingly good.
Yeah, but It doesn't mean he's going to win it,
Harbaugh's
but you're
on
allowed
that.
to make him a final. He's the best team in the league.
Yeah.
But, Bull, let me ask you this question. I want to start with you because I know you are going to start us off in a direction I want this to go. Myles has been the 2 awards so far has been named PFF, Pro Football Writers Association. Is he a lock for the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year, and should he be? Because I know you have asked some questions whether or not you think he's definitively should be.
Because he is a lock, but he shouldn't be. Now, that's not to say Myles Garrett shouldn't win, but, G talks about this all the time. Now, I think you'd argue against it in this case because it's for your guy, but you argue about narratives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I hate this. But narratives affect awards, and they shouldn't, and it drives me crazy. And there's been a narrative that Myles Garrett deserves to win the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Yeah.
I don't know that there are many, if any, facts that back that up. Most of the people, when you say, well, why should Myles Garrett win a Defensive Player of the Year? Well, he's the best. Okay, he might be the most physically talented. Did he have the best season? Give me some facts that back up his
Can I
best
give you
season.
one stat that I don't really know if I buy into it yet or not because it's new, but we had a conversation on the show where I believe it was Ben Baby.
Yeah, but that was like 5 weeks ago, and I mean, do we know that stat?
Well, it was before the Bengals game. That wasn't what week was that?
Oh yeah, it was.
So it was later in the season.
It was week
All the
18.
hay was almost in the barn.
Yeah.
And Bull, I'm not advocating for this stat because I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I still don't have a complete understanding of what it is, and it's not been around long enough for me to tell if that's. Let's say QBR. Like I don't know that I buy QBR, but according to Ben Baby, ESPN has developed a stat that is a combo of all things defensive end, and he said again, I don't know. Maybe you can look into this. If I don't know.
Garrett was way ahead on this.
There was
one thing.
Garrett, and then a huge gap, and then everybody else. So
I just think everybody is. It's like everybody, and this is not in this case. It's Cleveland, but it's every case every year with these awards. We decide that our guy should win, and everybody else thinks it's ludicrous if you disagree. That's stupid.
I agree with that.
It doesn't make any sense, and I feel like some of these writers who vote on these things, they're total sheep. Instead of doing their own work on it.
Somebody is the sexy. You always hear that the sexy candidate.
Right.
I don't want to hear that.
Just the fact. Look at the NBA. How many MVPs did LeBron win? Has he won?
I voted for him every year.
How many has he won?
And you know what?
Four.
You got it right most years.
I voted for him every year.
But how ludicrous. Kobe Bryant won 1 MVP. He's got less than Steve Nash. Steve Nash was a hell of a player. Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, not the same ballpark.
And the crazy part about it is, they don't want to hear it. Kobe Bryant had to die before he got props. When Eagle
Well, I mean, we all knew he was great, but he did get greater in depth. That always happens.
He still was getting, he would do interviews, and he was still getting Eagle Colorado comments. Like, hey, like I had to ask.
And then suddenly when he died and people brought that up, they're like, how dare you? That is great.
Like, you got to, these are almost, I think, these are lifetime and popularity contests amongst good
I hate
players.
it. And writers allow their Listen, I've been thinking about this because I've been thinking about it with the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes, thank you. He's changing over. Come on, Bull.
I've already been a vote for steroid guys. I just think their standards have to be higher. But I find Curt Schilling to be one of the most deplorable, disgusting, despicable human beings in the public.
But that's not a criteria.
But I would vote for him for the Hall of Fame.
You're right. Yeah.
I would. Because
Ty Cobb was a miserable human being,
there's a lot
too.
of
He's in.
crappy people. I can't let their personalities or what I think of them
Right.
affect whether or not I think they're Hall of Famers. Or these things are stupid, and people let personal biases get out of the way. Now, listen, sometimes you have subconscious biases. But I think you have to go in. If I had a vote for any of these things, I would think about hey, I like the Bengals. I like the Browns. I can't let those. I have to consciously think. I can't let those get in my way of making an honest
human nature
point,
that they will
and it's
get
hard
in the
to do, but you got to do it, and too many guys don't.
I still catch strays all the time for voting for Andre Iguodala for NBA Finals MVP in 2015. People are like, how could you of all people, how could you vote for Andre Iguodala for NBA Finals MVP over LeBron when you worked for his hometown paper? I'm like, well, number one, they ain't got nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
The Cavs didn't win.
Number two, the Cavs lost 3 games in a row in that finals. Number 3, if you look at the number, it doesn't matter. We're getting off.
No, but you're right.
But
I walked.
You voted your conscience, and that's what everybody should do.
I walked into the Cavs locker room after that, like the votes had just been released, and one of LeBron's people in his inner circle, I won't say which one, like saw me and screamed from across the locker room, "You've got to be effing kidding me!" I was like, "Hi."
It's amazing that they care about such things. But
well, first of all, win.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's only happened I think once in the history of the NFL of the Super Bowl where the MVP was on the losing team.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. My memory tells me that's happened.
I'm surprised that's
one
happened
time.
at all.
I think it happened one time. Was it Ed Too Tall Jones, or it seems to me that now remember when you vote for that and you've done that.
Chuck Howley.
What's that?
Chuck Howley.
Yeah, you're right. Chuck Howley.
Forever ago.
Yeah.
But and now it doesn't stand out, right? But it's happened once.
Same thing in the NBA. Jerry Lucas one time.
Yes.
On the losing
now
team.
sometimes because of when the time frame is, we don't know who's going to win. Oftentimes that's the case. Think of all the Super Bowls that have been decided in the last 5 minutes. I think at the Super Bowl it's 5 minutes. I could be wrong on that. But I just remember times where I was putting my pencil to that and my hand was shaking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who let's get 60 minutes in and then I'll tell you who the MVP is.
I mean,
So in that case, like win the championship series and then you can make an argument for it. But Bull, your point is 1,000% valid. And to answer the ultimate question here, and this may be controversial, Myles Garrett does not deserve the defensive player of the year.
The more I think about it, I agree. I was just going to say, he didn't play well at the end of the year.
And Bull, what's the most important stretch of any season?
The end of the season. That's it.
And it's not just this year. We've shown with a graphic that we have that Myles Garrett is a absolute first ballot lock Hall of Famer in the first quarter of the season. He is a Hall of Famer in the second quarter of the season. In the third quarter of the season, he's probably going to wait a couple years to get in. And on the fourth quarter of the season, for a career, you're going to scratch your head and say maybe he's not a Hall of Famer.
No.
To me, the most important, it's why my knock on Myles has always been this. I don't see the splash plays in the biggest moments of games. Now,
not consistently enough.
He's done it,
Yeah.
but to me, when I think of Aaron Donald, okay, now he might go down as the greatest ever, but when I think of Aaron Donald, I will always and forever think of how he won a Super Bowl for a team. He literally won the Super Bowl because the two biggest plays in that game, and those numbers are they're jaw-dropping. He made two back-to-back plays in the biggest game of his career that sealed the deal for his team, and both of those plays were incredible human athletic achievements. Myles is capable of that. We've seen that throughout his career. I need to see that in December. I needed to see that in Houston. I needed to see that the last 6 weeks of the season, and I know he was hurt, but I just can't vote for him this year.
One of the things that we got to take into consideration is this. When you start off the regular season, and the premise that we talk about is, if you don't want to say Myles Garrett is the most double teamed, there's years he is by far, there's years he may be second. At the end of the day, when you talk about attention on the football field, Myles Garrett demands the most attention on the football field. They've proven it statistically. You can see it in chips and things.
Was he the most double teamed this year, though?
I thought it
I don't
was.
think he was.
But
him and Micah Parsons were way ahead of him.
I said, he may not.
He's always up there.
He's always in the top three, right? There's some seasons is a little closer to the other. But here's the thing. When you deal with that amount as a defensive end plan, when you deal with that amount of people touching your body at one point in time, when you got a chip from here, and you got a chip from here, and they sliding your way, that takes a lot out of you. The energy level that you got to think these guys is 330, 340 pounds. You see in most of them. And while you engage, the tight end is hitting you, and the running back is going your way. So that takes a lot out of you. Your body is getting knocked and dinged, and so you might start off in the beginning of the season,
right,
where you're starting off like a game buster, but that takes a toll on you. It's like the LeBron minutes. Like, do you want LeBron playing 40 minutes? Can he do it? Sure. Can Myles Garrett take triple teams all year? Sure. But it's going to have a wear and tear on his body.
But
it comes at a
price. The
price.
problem, G, is if you look at all the other elite pass rushers,
and we were going to do that.
Their numbers are not declining as the season goes on.
Give me a player.
Well,
in terms of, are you talking about double teams?
Let's go TJ Watt. No, I think we're talking about
sacks per month.
Progression as the season goes on.
Okay, now hang on one second, though, before we do that.
Okay.
We sat here all year and said sacks are not the end-all, be-all to measuring this award.
And I still think they're not.
So now, because,
But Jay, there were games where he wasn't in the box score.
I think the Texans, he vanished in the Texans game, and that's left a sour taste in everybody's mouth.
1,000%. But he also was not a factor in the last 5 or 6 weeks.
I do think that the shoulder was much more significant than people
But you
realize.
can't, if it's who's the best, you can't get a pass for that.
Agree with that, but I'm just saying, it feels like I don't remember every single week we all sat here and said he's the defensive player of the year.
It felt that way the first 12 weeks of the year.
Yes.
But we said that up until week 15, 16 as well.
We were, Jason, in real time, to be fair, we were saying, what's happened to Myles Garrett? The shoulder must be a lot more serious than we thought. Because his production went from here to here.
But the conversation shifted to, well, look at the pass rush win rate. I can't even say it. Look at the double teams. It never I just feel like and he vanished in the Houston game. Yeah. No debate. But that doesn't count in this because it's a regular season award. And it feels like if Myles had 2 sacks and a forced fumble in that Houston game, would we still be having this conversation?
Well, you know what?
I'm not sure that we would.
We can't erase that from our mind, and you're right, and we
fair.
should.
That's fair.
That's why really this discussion has to be had before the playoff.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have any more background? Do you have the double?
What are some of the other top pass rushers doing in January?
Or no, before we even get to that, because I
need to know double teams.
Like double teams or
That's not as sortable player by player. Like on the fly. I will say one thing in the whole conversation about should he be a lock, should he not be.
Yeah.
If you want to say he's not going to win or doesn't deserve to win, there has to be a person who does.
That's the other part of this.
And you could have Myles, and it's fair to say his numbers have tailed off, and the sacks down the stretch, his pressure numbers were fine. But if it's not Myles, who?
I can't come up with another great name.
I got to tell you, and
I'm not sure. I don't think T.J. Watt deserves it this year.
I didn't watch all. Max Crosby to me, when I watched him, and again, I didn't watch every game. So if you just dropped in on 4 games from Myles Garrett, you may say, my God, was he even playing?
Yeah.
Or you might say, oh, he was the most disruptive force I've ever seen on a football field.
But his team was bad. I think that factors in.
Max Crosby, when I watched him,
right.
So in their nationally exclusive windows, he was a game changer to me.
But he wasn't playing games that mattered.
And
I think that factors in.
I could look at it and say, look, man, this is a award that also has to do with how well your unit did defensively. If the Browns are number 1 all year and they're carrying quarterbacks, it's very hard to say.
I don't think that should be a factor. I don't know how often it's been a factor. I don't think that should be any factor at all.
Can you be the defensive player of the year in basketball and have the worst defense in the rating in the league?
As an individual?
Can you?
Well, I think the comp that you're making, didn't A-Rod win MVP when the Rangers were in last place?
Oh, you think you're right.
Just won.
Andre Dawson.
Yeah. Otani. That's a great example.
But here's the thing. You got to overkill it. Otani overkilled everybody. It was not even close. So you're like, even if he plays, his team is bad. He overkilled it. And my thing is this, it's a lifetime achievement award. There's
but
years,
that shouldn't be either.
But watch this. I'm just saying what it is. There's years Myles Garrett had better years than this, and he was nowhere in the running at all.
But in some of those years, there was someone that had a ridiculous year.
But Mike forget Max Crosby because he's a bad team.
You said he didn't play meaningful games. Bull, to me, that's more impressive.
Not playing meaningful games?
Yeah, but
if you're dominating in football games where your team is like mailing it in, we've given Myles Garrett a pass.
That's the argument I've made
December
for him. Yes.
Because those games were meaningless. How do you get up for those? Max Crosby
but
did.
I'm saying, but I'm being critical of Myles for not playing well when it mattered the most at the end of the season. So I got to say, well, Max Crosby didn't have games that mattered. There was no pressure.
And still played extremely well.
Yes, but Myles Garrett had a lot more pressure on him.
That's what the Pro Bowl is
That's
for.
what I think.
Yeah.
I would say Michael Parsons because the Cowboys' defense was right there with the Browns.
They were.
Being one of the best defenses in the league.
I think here's the thing. This is the funny part about it. People talk about it. I think what's the name? I forget who said this. It was coach for Denver Broncos. What's his name?
Broncos.
Sean Payton?
Sean Payton said this. He said the sacks is the most useless statistic there is. He was like, there's so many different things. Quarterbacks can fall down and you can tackle.
That's Sean Payton.
Sometimes
I disagree with that.
Sometimes you don't even get blocked. Sometimes, and guess what? Those count. Right? It's misunderstood.
I think it doesn't tell the whole story.
Well,
I agree with
sometimes
that.
an interception is thrown directly to you through
Right.
nothing you did.
I don't.
Those count too.
We've already. Yes, it shouldn't just be about sacks, of course, but I don't think that means sacks have no value.
They have value.
I don't agree with that.
I just think the advanced analytics that people love All of them point to Myles Garrett.
Well, but a lot of people here don't like analytics at all.
You got to take what you take.
You know, I listen, if Myles Garrett wins in the end, that's fine with me. I don't really care one way or the other. I'm not passionate about it.
Do you think he will win? Because I do think he will win.
Yeah,
I think he's going to win.
He's going to win.
Because this Pro Football Writers is almost, it's like when you win the Golden Globe, you win the Oscar.
Yeah.
It's a precursor. It's a great predictor. And it usually pans out. And by the way, I'm not going to sit here if he wins and say, oh, my God, it's so egregious. I would just say that if I had a vote, I would have to really sit down and do a lot of film study and even talk to folks that cover those teams to see, because I cannot forget the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, there's no excuse for the writers that vote on this not being able to do the work. Like, in baseball, you can't watch 162 games of every team.
No.
That's impossible.
But in football, you can
watch every guy that's legitimately in the mix.
Jay, just because you asked, I do have the numbers month by month for a couple other pass rushers.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do they shake out?
If you want to take this full, Steve, just so everyone has a comparison as you're talking. So, TJ Watt, same draft class. These are Myles' numbers.
So wait, but look, okay, so the first
January throw out. How many games has he played
Well,
in
we'll just add them together. So 57.5 the first 2 months, and then 31 the last 3 months.
No. Well, no, don't even throw January in there, because in most months, it's not a full month.
Right.
No,
and he's probably played 6 games in his career.
No, I know, but
it's the first 2 months versus the rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's the first 2 months of the year versus the rest of the year.
season.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what is that?
57 to 31, so he's about half.
Yeah, that's a
little more than
drop-off.
half. Yeah.
So these are Myles' numbers. I'll read you some others, and these are just sacks. This is just purely sacks. It's not pressures, nothing. TJ Watt in September, 21 sacks.
Oh, we don't have a graphic.
No, I'm just reading you these. I didn't make this for everybody. So
just give us September, October. Don't give all 5, Mike.
You
give him September, October together.
I can't do mental math.
All right, go ahead.
I got to do it this way.
Yeah.
September 21, October 19.5,
All right, so
November
40.
22.5, December 25.
So he's got more in the last half of the season, the last 2 months, as he does the first 2 months.
Yeah, give January also, but go ahead.
He has 8.5 in January.
So he's got he's got about 25% more the last 3 months of the season, TJ Watt. Garrett's got about 40% less.
Would you guys say that TJ is the double team comparison? I know he doesn't.
I don't know.
I know he doesn't get double teamed as much.
No,
I think Micah Parsons is the double team comparison.
Trey Hendrickson, same draft class.
Okay.
Not as many sacks, but he is the epitome of consistency.
He didn't play much early in his career.
He goes 14, 15, 13.5, 13.5. Almost
Pretty
dead
steady.
consistent.
Yeah.
Pretty steady.
And then January?
3.5. Same as Myles
So
Garrett.
he's about even. He stays about even.
Yep.
Khalil Mack, who's a little older than Myles,
Right.
but similar numbers. He goes 22, 25.5, 23, 29, and 2 in January.
So
he gets
up a
more,
little, slightly better.
More.
Yeah.
Daniil Hunter, same age range as Myles Garrett. 20, 22.5, 20, 23.5, and then 1.5 in January.
Yeah.
Again,
What about Micah Parsons?
But not just saying
I'll
that
get to Parsons in
it's
a
an
sec.
increase.
Aaron Donald, who's different
this is a
position,
great-
but 17, 32, 25, 36.5.
Wow,
Way up.
36.5 in December.
September's his worst month.
To me, guys, that's what separates all of those that are Hall of Fame great and really, really, really good from the yardstick. And to me, Aaron Donald is the yardstick, and he's doing it at a much better rate in the most important month of the season.
And he's probably getting double-teamed even more than Myles Garrett.
No. Go to the numbers.
Myles Garrett was the number one.
He's been a number one double team guy.
I thought that was just ends. I thought it was just ends.
No, Look, you got to think about this, because you can't for a center and he's over the 3 technique. Here's how you can get double. You got the tight end, you got the running back, and you got the tackle.
You're not doing guard center to double team.
You can do that, but you could get doubled as a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult because he's on the outside shoulder.
It's easier to chip with an end. You can see a lot of resistance on your way to the quarterback.
The tackle has to cover the end.
Right.
So the guard is pretty much by himself.
Just this year, who was double teamed most? Who was and where?
It was
Myles?
Micah and Myles, and I'll find the exact number for you. It's on PFF.
Yeah, I just wonder, was it like a huge gap between
It
Myles?
was Micah, Myles, either one or two. I don't remember who's one. Then there was a pretty big gap.
I thought Myles this year.
Is that
was
just
2.
ends or all D linemen?
I'll sort it.
Okay.
And last one, you asked for Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
He goes 9.5, 7, 16, 6.5. But he's only played 3 seasons.
Right.
So
Did
his
you give us
numbers are
TJ
way
Watt?
lower.
Again,
I don't remember if you did.
every other player we mentioned is equal or better
in the second
Most
half.
of them better.
Some were significantly better.
I think Trey Hendrickson was about equal, or maybe
dead even essentially.
dead even.
Yeah. Now what was?
And Myles down almost about 45%.
Did you do TJ Watt in that?
Yeah, 21, 19.5, 22.5, 25, 8.5.
Okay, it went up considerably.
So they go up. But
it
Myles,
is fascinating. It's
really
wild.
is.
The numbers are wild.
And it should go up a little because you play more games in October, November, December, January than you do in September, October.
It shouldn't. When you take it into context, wear and tear.
Yeah.
He's playing like 2, 3, 4 more games than other people. Not to mention, like when you talk about
not this year. The Browns defense is getting off the field
right, they was
faster
getting
than
off the
anybody.
field this year. But my thing is, and when you say the discrepancy, and you got to look at it, it's like, yes, you are going to. If you are a guy that's getting double teamed, you will wear down. Now, does it completely obfuscate you from not showing up against the Texans? No, because you had 2-3 weeks off.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can look at it and say, all right, well, look, that plays a role in it, and he's injured sometimes.
I think I'm more on Garrett's side on this, but the numbers are wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
If there was it's not a statistical anomaly. It's not just a little bit less.
It's not just one year.
His production is almost cut in half.
Yes.
And that is dramatic. And we can't find another top rusher
yeah.
who doesn't do anything but either stay the same or go up.
I would love to know if that's the same thing with the pressures, too.
And I'm going to do a deeper dive on this, Bull.
Yeah.
That was just the preliminary. I could sort sacks super quickly. I'll do a deeper dive this summer. We'll dive into maybe why it happens, if the pressures have the same trend and whatnot. I wasn't ready to release all this today.
I think we all agree he will win the award, though, don't we?
Mike, yes.
Yeah.
What was Micah Parsons' sack numbers by month just this year? Do you have that?
This year, I can pull it up if you give me a sec. Hold on.
Yeah, let's give you a second. I'm just curious if he had, because he got double teamed even more than Myles Garrett this year, so I'm curious if that affected him.
So how did it affect him?
Yeah.
I will say this. He, like Myles, was invisible in the playoff game.
Yeah, nothing.
And I thought Dallas was going to win that playoff game more than anyone else because of Micah Parsons.
Right.
I really did. I knew that Dak was having a good
you.
season, but I thought Micah is going to be so disruptive. Green Bay isn't going to be able to do anything. And he, like Myles, was invisible.
Yeah.
Biggest game of the year.
Bull, last thing, and then we'll go on to the Cavs. But this year, just 2023, he had 4 sacks in September, 2 sacks in October, 5.5 in November, 1.5 in December, and 1 in January.
So slightly up.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, it's.
We'll do, like I said, I'll do a bigger deep dive. I'll get the pressures in there and the double teams and give it a little more context than just simple sacks. But
sounds good.
There we go. All right. We mentioned it earlier. I'll mention it again. There are Ultimate Team shows coming out next month. There's an Ultimate Guardian show, which host will be TBD. An Ultimate Brown show, which will be hosted by G. Bush. The Ultimate Cavs show will be myself and Jason Lloyd talking Cavs. And the Ultimate 216 show is Earl the Pearl doing a little culture sports combo. So make sure you guys check those out. Coming to you next month. The Cavs had their win streak snapped last night to the Milwaukee Bucks. Definitely a little bit of a different test than they had seen in the previous 8 games. The Cavs missed some shots. Giannis went crazy under some pretty wild circumstances with their coach being fired just the day before. Jason, you're in here to talk Cavs. Did we learn anything about the Cavs yesterday? Was anything exposed? Anything worth noting to keep track of as this Cavs team gets ready to head towards the upcoming All-Star break?
Yeah, we learned the Bucks are a lot better when Giannis plays. Yeah. That's what we learned. I don't know
when he's motivated.
Yeah, I don't know you can say one game you learned or didn't learn anything. But it's hard to say anything with the Cavs because last year just hangs over everything. So this whole and like they were the hottest team in the league. They won 9 in a row, and we talked about it last week. I wrote about it last week. It's great, but they're going to be a completely different team when they're healthy. It's sort of like you go back to the finals teams. I'll go back to that 2015 team we were talking about. Everyone's like, well, man, they would have won if they had Kevin and Kyrie. Well, they were a completely different team, and they were forced to play a completely different way.
Do you believe that, by the way? Because I don't believe that.
I don't know. Because of exactly what we're saying.
What's silly is, though, there are a lot of Cavs fans who say that as if it's a foregone
because they were terrific players. But the Cavs completely altered the way that they played because they didn't have those guys. Look, same thing's kind of happening here. They've completely altered the way that they're playing because they don't have 2 of their big guys. And JB has said, we're just sort of jacking threes. That's what we got to do. Now, they always wanted to get to the style of play. That's why they signed these shooters. That's why they brought in Max Strus and George Niang. And Sam Merrill's getting some run now because they knew they needed more shooting. But when you bring another ball-dominant guard back in Darius, it's going to change the rhythm. It's going to change the tempo. It's going to change the ball movement. It's going to change everything.
It's not a big and 4 shooters anymore.
No, and when you bring Mobley back, it's going to change everything. So it sort of feels like we're just sitting in purgatory right now because I'm really and Mobley's getting close. He's on this trip. Darius is getting close. He had the wire removed from his jaw, but he lost so much weight in the time that he missed. He's got to get back up to game shape. And I just think that this is not telling us anything because they don't have two of their big dogs.
You didn't learn anything. Did either of you guys? Because I didn't either.
I actually did.
But I know Mike did, so that's why let's run the gamut here, and then we'll go to Mike.
I did. So last night was one of those things where you had not Darius Garland, but Donovan Mitchell. He's been playing the point. He's been moving the ball around. I learned that with the style that they play right now, if they have a bad shooting night, it's done. Like Giannis got what he wanted. Obviously, that's just Giannis doing him.
How much did they have to do with the Cavs having a bad shooting night?
But not very much. Like I think they play solid defense, but when you I think Donovan Mitchell had a really bad shooting night. I think when I turned the game off, he was like 1 for 8 behind the arc. Dean Wade hit a 3. But, Niang and Strus didn't have a really great shooting night. Karis LeVert struggled. When they're playing like this and they want to shoot a lot of threes, they better hit them, right? Sure. When they're hitting threes, they're very, very good at extending the games, and I think they could win games like that if they hit shots. But, like he said, is this replicatable when you get Darius Garland? Because now instead of Donovan Mitchell, you got Darius. And Darius like to pat that ball. Darius will pat the ball. It's been ball movement. How does it look and McNuggets said this too. And I wanted to ask Jason is Evan Mobley even as good as Allen at the 1 out, 1 big 4 out? Because I think offensively, Jared Allen.
Careful, there'll be people that want to chase you down and beat you about the head and shoulders.
No, I'm just looking at him as touch around the basket. You don't need to run anything for him. Look at it, 21 and 12 playing against Lopez and Giannis. Come on, 5 assists. I mean, he's playing. I don't know if Mobley can do that consistently.
21 and 12. Well, I think Evan is a better one-on-one defender than Jared is.
I agree with that.
But Jared is putting up incredible numbers. But I still think Evan's ceiling is higher.
Yes, ceiling's
higher.
So
for the moment, you can't ask Jared to do anything more than he's doing,
right.
than he's played. He's been a great fit for this. If you want to look long-term and look years out, I still think Evan's ceiling is higher. And again, I keep saying it, I'm losing faith with every day that goes by that the three-point shot's ever going to come for Evan. I think, he's still really young, so you hate to put a ceiling on a guy. It's sort of like Josh Naylor in the war we were having about can you hit left-handed pitching or not.
Finally came around.
And so you don't want to cap a guy who's this young, but if he develops a three-point shot, it changes his entire game.
How many years do you give him?
He's only 21, 22.
I'm not saying we're here already. I'm just saying I'm curious.
I think you at least have to give him another 2 or 3 years.
Okay. It's safe to say, too, some guys never develop a shot.
They don't. But they don't.
And I'm told that he's not developed the shot for a lack of trying. What I heard was he worked on it in this offseason, and it just came back and it looked exactly the same.
But people like Valanciunas has developed the three-point shot. Lopez developed a bit of a three-point shot. Guys like that who never used to be able to shoot threes. I'm going to be honest, Lauri Markkanen was always a shooter, but I didn't think he was knocking them down at that rate when he played for Chicago.
He's a good example of a guy who's really evolved as he's been in the league and gotten comfortable.
Yeah.
So, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, what'd you learn?
The one thing I learned yesterday, and this was more a confirmation than something we learned, but you look at that 8-game win streak, we were so excited about the offense. Well, eventually they weren't going to shoot 43% as a team from three. And when you're not making shots, you need a secondary creator on the court. And that's where Darius Garland comes back into play.
That's exactly what G said, yeah.
And G kind of alluded to it. And we had talked about, hypothetical trades and moving guys around. But last night proved Darius Garland has a crucial and needed role in this offense because it can't all be on Donovan. And as good as Sam Merrill is, as good as Strus is, as good as Niang's played, LeVert not fully in that category. They're great complementary offensive pieces, but they're not creators.
Mike, I agree with that. And to me, I guess my takeaway from all of this would be, as we've talked about, what are the Cavs going to do moving forward? Are they going to just blindly hope that Donovan decides he wants to stay here? Or are they going to be proactive and try to put his feet to the fire and say, are you going to sign the extension or are we going to move on? What are we going to do? What I did learn last night is, and I'll say it again, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks, they took the best team, in my view, the best team in the conference, and you can argue based on where things are right now, I still think Milwaukee is my team to beat in the East. They took their best shot last night. Giannis was completely motivated because the coach is up out of there because of Giannis. He wanted to come back and say, we didn't need him, see? So I think the Cavs took their best punch. And if this is the yardstick in the East, and even if you disagree with me that it's not, I don't think you can disagree with me and say that it's much below Boston or even if you have Philly. I think they're all right there together. If this Cavs team, without Garland, forget Mobley for this conversation, can take their best punch and play a relatively close game, I'm encouraged by that. It was on the road. I did say yesterday I want to see what happens in the 2 games.
Yeah.
My expectation is they should win one. The other one should be close.
Well,
I want to see what happens tomorrow night.
Where I would push back a little bit is they were down like 19.
I know
21.
they were. I know
Milwaukee style, like it was over. And I know, like on the broadcast, here they come. No, it was over.
No, and you knew it was over, but I like the fact that we got the here.
But they fight. Like they're a gritty team that fights.
Right. No, but I love what AC does is you got to cut it to 8 by the start of the 8-minute mark.
No. I mean, that's 8's nothing in the end. But it just felt like last night to me felt like Milwaukee's veteran team. Like I watched that for 4 years.
Yeah.
I watched that championship team, that veteran team who put the game away, and they're like, all right, where are we going for beers tonight?
Yeah,
and there's still 6 minutes on the clock, and that scrappy team's coming back, and they're coming back, but it's over.
On the Mobley front, and I know every time I bring it up, everybody says they're not trading him, they're not trading him, they're not trading him. I had a conversation in the newsroom yesterday about examples in Cleveland sports history when they decided it was time to move on from a guy.
Yeah.
And that's always the tricky part. Have we held Bieber too long? Probably.
They would have traded him last year if it wasn't for the injury.
I know. Brandon Phillips. Remember that deal?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there is, and we don't.
They didn't hold on to him too long. They didn't give him long enough.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So those are decisions that we don't have the benefit of the future results to know how they work out.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're prospecting. You're prospecting. When you draft a guy, you're prospecting. I expect this player is going to be. I will say this about Mobley. For me, my expectations for him have come down every year. They haven't gone up.
Yeah.
I was so excited about him his rookie season. I thought, oh my God, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
He could be a unicorn. But what I've seen is his ceiling has slowly gone down. Don't you want to, if you're going to make a decision on a player, you want to make a decision on that player when his value is still as high as it's ever going to be. And for me, I don't know that it's going to be any higher. If it comes down again after this year, like at some point, the league consensus on him is going to be, oh, he's never going to be that guy. And then the ship has sailed. You're not going to get the most you can for him.
And who do we blame for he's made no progress as a player? Is that his fault? Is it the coach's fault?
I put it on him because the Cavs have shown they can develop guys.
They have, and they're patient.
They've done a great job of finding guys on the margins and developing them. This is a number 3 overall pick.
Right.
So it's on, I put a lot of this on him.
I mean, sometimes it is, like, I think we underestimate God-given ability. Sometimes you ain't got it. Like, you try all you want. I could go out and I could train and pitch and do whatever I want to. I'm not going to be pitching like Jay. It's just not in the cards.
Now, I will say, like, he's still elite defensively.
Yeah.
He is elite.
Listen,
what hasn't developed.
Top 3.
And really, I mean, if you look at some of, like, his – he was regressing a little bit this year, especially, like, in the lane and around the lane. His numbers were not good.
Was that because of the injury?
Well, no, I don't know. Like,
Mike, I thought you were telling me, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry to cut you off, Jason, but weren't you telling me that you think his defense is overrated?
I think he's a much better help defender than he is an on-ball defender.
See, I disagree, but Mike played the game. Like, again, I defer to guys who played, and Mike played at a higher level than I did. But I look at him. I look at some of the moves that he makes defensively and the way he can switch from one to another.
I like his switching ability too.
His body control and his ability to block and alter shots without fouling. Like, I think he's pretty good.
Well, Jason, real quick, when I say he's a better off-ball defender, Giannis is a much better off-ball defender than on-ball defender too. That's not even necessarily a knock on him being a bad defender, like by any means. I just think he's better when he's not the point of attack guy, and you have to worry about Evan Mobley coming from outside of the picture.
I mean, real quick, guys,
JB
JB ultimately is going to have to find that, like, when Darius comes back, you don't want to just completely give up the way you've been playing, having success. But
no, you got to blend the two.
So how do you kind of find that mix? It's not easy.
I think Sam Merrill has to stay on the floor.
I would agree with that too.
But somebody's going to lose minutes when Darius comes back. To me, it can't be Sam.
I think G. Bush said I think it was you, said, how about we go that Allen gets 24 minutes and Mobley gets 24 minutes. And you know what? I had never thought of that before, but I kind of like it.
Jason,
keep them fresh.
Entertain me for a little bit. This is messed up that I think about this, and I know we always go down this road. But the thing that the Cavs are missing is 4 shooters and LeBron. No, for real. Like, can you imagine? Like Mobley is the new Tristan Thompson. Right? He's switching off on these picks. LeBron don't even have to play on ball like that. They got 2 erasers down there. You got Sam Merrill's a shooter, Niang is a shooter, Strus is a shooter, and you could put Isaac Okoro, like Amon Shumpert, on one of the best offensive
you don't have
it's
to convince,
crazy.
You don't have to convince me. If LeBron's on this team, they're winning the championship. I totally believe that.
It's
they're
perfect.
winning the championship if
It's
LeBron's
the
on this
perfect
team.
setup.
No matter who they have to trade to get him?
Well, he's not coming. Like it's a fantasy conversation.
Yeah, but
at least right now.
Sure, he's not coming.
I'm saying, hey, listen, I've been driving the train. He's a free agent at the end of the year.
Listen,
so
man.
I said earlier this week, why would you give up assets that can help him next year
Right.
if you can just get him next year as a free agent?
Well, but the money would be.
I know it's tricky.
Can we put the
We have a
collection
special
plate?
guest in studio.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Let's pivot here.
Another
Cavs
kid
right now.
not
All right.
from Akron, but who's got Akron
How
ties.
did we do it? Did we win last night? Or
No.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
Smoked.
Yeah, we're kind of licking our wounds right now. But
All right.
good news is we get him again tomorrow night, and so we get another chance.
Okay.
Matt Colleague in the house, everybody.
What's going on, guys?
Matt,
What's
it's
going
good to see
on?
you.
It's good to be here.
Hey, your Super Bowl is coming up.
Yes. Super Bowl
the
racing.
Daytona 500
Daytona
is the Super
500.
Bowl of racing.
Yep.
Where is Team Colleague? Because I was talking to you the other night. You've made some changes.
Yep.
How do you feel about your teams, and how do you feel about Daytona?
Feel awesome. So first we have an exhibition race. As I think I was here last year. We have an exhibition race in L.A. in
Right.
Los Angeles. They turned the L.A. Coliseum, where USC plays football, into a racetrack.
Wow, that's
So
crazy.
they put an asphalt racetrack inside, and we
awesome.
raced it.
And you
So-
said that went very well last year.
No, it went great.
Yeah.
It's fun and it's super support. They don't have. We race out in I don't even know where out in California, but it's it's 45 minutes or something east of LA.
Yeah.
But that's the only other race that's like West Coast.
Yeah.
So it's good to just have West Coast people be able to go.
Sure.
And I shouldn't say that's it because it's Las Vegas and Phoenix and
Right.
And we race in
California-
Portland, but yeah.
Do you know the origin of why the Daytona 500? Why it was in the
the
beginning
first
of the
race?
season as opposed to every other
going to
sport?
ask the same
I
thing.
know. I asked the same thing too. It's actually a pretty cool thing. I mean, no other sport does that. Where
No,
it's like
it's
your
true.
Super. It doesn't. It's. I wouldn't call it the Super Bowl of racing. It's as big an event. I mean, it's a
It's
massive,
NASCAR's
massive.
Super Bowl,
yeah,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not a championship.
Right.
So
true.
it's a
But
big.
it's the biggest
It's the
single
biggest
event.
race, and if you were going to win one race, and that's what you're judged on by history, it's like winning the Indy 500.
Right.
I mean, it's like forever you're a Daytona 500 champion. So
Yeah.
that's why it's special, and that's why it's big, and that's why it's celebrated.
What changes did you make to the team, and how do you feel about them?
I feel great. We took. We actually have AJ Allmendinger as we're putting him back in the Xfinity Series because he's like won the last 2 Xfinity championship. The regular
Points.
season championship.
Yeah.
Yep. And then so we're throwing him. We've got SVG coming in. I don't know if you guys know who he is.
I didn't until you mentioned
Shane
his
Van
name to me the other
Gisbergen. Yeah,
night.
he's phenomenal. New Zealand road course racer. Extremely one of the best in the world. So he's coming to NASCAR, and so he's racing for us in the Xfinity Series this year.
Wow, very nice.
So that's going to be huge and celebrated, and it's just going to be a fun season that way. And then we've got a new guy, Josh Williams, running the Xfinity Series, who's run for years, but now we brought him over there. And then we moved Daniel Hemrick up to the Cup Series. And then we've got, I know, isn't that
Who's
good?
being
Earl's a
applauded
huge
by our
fan.
NASCAR fan, Earl
Yeah.
Pearl.
Yeah.
So we're moving him up, and then SVG and AJ Allmendinger are going to share, and along with a few other people that we haven't
So
announced
AJ will
yet.
still run
Yeah.
some
He'll
Cup.
definitely run,
Okay.
at least 10 Cup races.
I feel like we should do a NASCAR fantasy league, by the way, on the show.
You should.
There's plenty of time to
We
do
need
it.
to do it.
I
Plenty
can't
of
do
time
it.
to do
let's
it.
set it up.
How many
Yeah.
cars?
You set it up. I'll be in.
All right.
I'll get in.
How many cars you got?
Well, we have 5 full-time. So 2 in the Cup Series, and then we've got 3 in the Xfinity Series. But you can run as many as you want. So we'll run more in the Cup Series than 2 sometimes.
And I'm told that these
and we're running 5 at Daytona in the Xfinity Series.
Oh, wow.
So we also run the Xfinity Series at
told
Daytona.
These cars cost dozens and dozens of dollars.
Dozens of dollars.
and the follow-up is...
It's hundreds, actually.
If you do win the Daytona 500...
Yeah.
How you celebrating that?
I don't know.
Can we be a part of it?
I'm not doing what Austin Dillon and his team do. When they win big races, they get tattoos on their butt.
Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that.
Like a whole look that up.
Really?
Oh
Yeah, they do.
God.
Like that night, they go to the tattoo parlor and they get. It's not like small saying, "Hey, we want." Yeah. It's a big like Daytona 500. So I will not be doing that.
At the same time,
cool.
they all in the room. Like, is there any privacy on this? We got to figure this out.
Probably not. I don't know.
Wow.
That's
that's
But
quite
that's a cool tradition.
It is cool, but I do think that you
nobody
should come
sees
up
your
with your
butt
team to
anyway.
do something like that.
Right? The first one that comes up with that. You know what we
who
should
started
do?
that plan?
We should tattoo our ass. That's what we should do.
Can you imagine if you didn't tell your wife? Like, you get out the shower, she's like, whoa.
What happened?
We got some explaining to do.
When you own a NASCAR team, are there a bunch of maybe not a bunch, but a few backup drivers that are on call essentially if some guys get hurt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt told me there's an app for
That's
it.
how
I
it
said, where
works.
do you come up with these drivers? He goes, there's an app
Uber?
for it. Really?
Yeah. There's
So
no
they
app.
can run, and
He
they
was-
can fill in for other guys too?
Yeah. Well, they're mostly small guys, but that's what you have to do. If you do have a driver that gets hurt or injured, then they all fill in.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some bad situations. If you even remember, Ryan Newman got hurt at Daytona a few years ago.
Yeah.
So we had one of our drivers, Ross Chastain. They asked him if he'd fill in. So there's a whole thing between Toyota, Chevy, and Ford that you need a Chevy driver to drive in the Chevy. But then when certain things happen, then they
can drop those
like,
rules.
Well, just so you know, I can leave Avon Lake at 10:37.
you could be
and
there.
make it here by 11 and in the chair. So if you need anyone, I think I missed
You're
my
fast.
calling by
It's a
being a
little
race car
faster
driver.
on the track there.
We got to
That's
talk
funny.
about Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
So you're now doing some business with Peyton Manning. First of all, how the hell did that happen? Because Peyton doesn't do much.
Yeah.
And tell us what you guys are doing together.
Well, so with our College Companies Championship, our golf tournament at Firestone that we do every year with the PGA Tour, the Champions Tour, we have an ambassador of golf. So this is actually a PGA Champions Tour thing. Last year we had Steph Curry. The year before that, Condoleezza Rice, George Bush, a few years. And so this year it's Peyton Manning. Wow. And so we asked him, he's involved in golf. Really, so the College Companies Championship is it's obviously golf, but it's a big deal in the community as far as philanthropy. So this past year we gave $1.2 million back to, Akron and Northeast Ohio. And so, we pick people that are big time in philanthropy, and Peyton is. So he aligns with our mission, which is kids and their direct families. And so he's really into golf. He's really into philanthropy. And we asked him to be the ambassador to golf, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there. It's July 11th."
That's cool.
Will you get to play around with?
Yeah,
Peyton?
we'll play. I think we're playing in the Pro-Am. I think the day before. So
How cool is that?
Ain't that
cool.
crazy? Yeah, it'd be cool to have your phone and be like, Siri, call Peyton Manning. Let me get him up on here.
What's your
Will
handle?
you,
Yeah.
will you
wanna be
talk
the-
quarterback with him because you were a quarterback? I
I
imagine you guys would talk
I would hope.
a little bit.
yeah, I would think. But it's really cool I would imagine it would be cool as a pro athlete to be honored or part of another sport.
Yeah.
Like Steph Curry last year won that big event, that they had out wherever it was in Reno. And to be able to hold a trophy up that's not an NBA trophy,
it'd be cool.
it would be just the ultimate just cool. So Peyton's getting good at golf, and he's trying to be great at golf.
What's your handicap? You a good golfer?
Mine?
Yeah.
It just climbed back up to 19.8. So
Okay.
no, I'm not a good golfer.
You're under 20, so that is actually good.
It's fine.
That is
Yeah.
considered good.
Yeah.
Because your average weekend golfer is doing well if he breaks 100.
Well, that's how. So in business, even Leafield, that's how we would judge sales managers. I'd say, "How's your handicap?" And if it was a good handicap, I wouldn't hire him.
Yeah, it's too good. You're not spending enough time.
Yeah, you're not. You should be out selling.
No,
you
that's-
should be out golfing.
What's the best round you've ever shot? Your best score?
You know what? I'm going to say probably 85. I never got better than that.
Yeah.
And that's probably 30 years ago.
Do you get on the track with the cars yourself?
Yeah.
Often?
Not often, but
What's the fastest you've ever gone?
well, at Daytona they let us get up to 167 miles per hour.
Awesome.
What is that like?
It's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
We did the whole Richard Petty experience. Actually, it was during COVID.
Okay.
And they let us. I actually bought out the track. It was my birthday, so we had a little birthday celebration, and you couldn't.
People did that for his birthday.
You couldn't. Is that what you guys are doing for your birthday?
Yeah, man. It was crazy, man.
Next year, it's Indy 500. He's going to Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
So we took 12 cars out, and like they I can't believe they let us get up to 160. And the funny part is
you have to sign your life away, because I've done the Richard Petty thing too. And when you sign it, you're like, what does this mean? It means if you die,
it's not our fault.
Responsible. And you're like, oh, okay.
And can you believe they let you go out there? You're not. I mean, you're not in like you're in helmets and safety gear or whatever, but like the helmets. The worst thing I ever did, and I don't even mean to say it that way, but like we did the whole thing around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well in Indy cars.
Oh, wow. That's what I would love to do that.
So,
I've never done that.
And you can't drive yourself, but they have, it's a two-seater, where they, there's a driver and you're just behind them. But that's a situation where you're going around Indy. You've got to be pretty, dare I say, crazy.
You're a daredevil.
And those guys know. I don't know. They didn't tell us, but it felt like full speed.
I asked, I think it was Bobby Rahal. It was once, I asked a formidable IndyCar driver what it was like, and the driver said to me, imagine sitting on a sled and going around a track 200 miles an hour, because obviously in those cars, your tail end is about 6 inches off the ground.
Wow. That's crazy.
You are so close to the ground.
It's the same thing at Daytona. I mean, you're just trusting it. Now, at Daytona, the NASCAR they're wide open. I mean, you're not really lifting, but you just trust that it's going to hold. So it's the same thing. So same with Indy cars. Like you're going 200 miles per hour, and you're just or 220, and you're just trusting how it's going to hold. So you're just looking at the right front tire, being like, and I did about 10 laps in it. And I was like, what am I doing?
You're living.
This is ridiculous.
No, you're living. That's what you're doing.
This ain't for us.
No.
There's limits to.
No fat guys allowed in those cars.
But we have arms outside of the, put my side. Do they have doors on these things?
Oh, no.
So I got to
climb out the window.
Yeah.
You got to get
That's not happening.
And the crazy thing about the IndyCar is it's an open air car.
Yeah.
Like at least in NASCAR, it feels like you're driving a real car.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the Indy cars, you have to squeeze into a seat that's this wide, and your channel for your legs is barely bigger than both legs, and you're in this like this, and the upper half of your body is in open air.
Can't move your head.
Crazy.
You can't. Yeah.
It is bananas.
Do you have a favorite racing movie, by the way, of all time?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Days of Thunder.
Okay.
Or Talladega Nights.
That's my favorite.
That's a great movie.
Just because I love comedy.
What was the one?
It's got to be Talladega.
Yeah, Talladega Nights is just.
What was
so
the one
good.
with Matt Damon that came out? It was about
Ford versus Ferrari.
Ford versus Ferrari.
I never saw that, but it looked
good. It was good. It was good. I saw
it's a great movie.
It was great.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
I'm still hung up on renting out the track. Oh, it's my birthday. I'm going to go rent out the track. I rent out I-90 every day. I just don't tell anyone.
Well, I remember.
So we had dinner, but they let us have dinner at the start-finish line.
Wow.
So
that is cool.
It was cool.
This is so cool. It's funny. Like I went to laser tag,
but we've won there.
I went to Chuck E. Cheese.
We'd won there before, so I think we've won there 3 times. So
That's
they let us do it, and it was a really cool experience.
Wow.
About 12. We dressed up in jackets, and they had. So even before dinner, they had it all catered, and then they had up on the screen like the wins, like the winning moments or the last lap of when we won. So, our drivers were there. It was awesome. But 2 of those wins were during COVID, so we didn't get to celebrate.
Oh, wow.
And so even during COVID, like the owners, like I wasn't allowed to go to the racetrack.
Wow.
So we got champagne bottles out and we were spraying each other, and so we celebrated that way.
Such an odd time.
You and Jay's
cool.
You and Jay's life insurance got to be crazy. Like y'all's like the policies is out of control. Shout out to Tracy. He doesn't buy. Jay, stop jumping out of planes. All kind of other stuff.
I want to fly planes.
Stop.
And Tracy's like, absolutely not. Those are the ones that
Have you
crash.
flown a plane?
No.
Will you?
No. No.
Will you jump out of an airplane?
No. I would, but no.
You see that? That's that kid. He's like, yeah.
I want to, but
you.
at the end of the day, no, I'm not going to.
I saw.
So you'll go 200 miles around a track, but not jump out of a plane.
He has limits.
Yeah, right.
He has limits. What's your greatest thrill, and not business?
Yeah.
Your greatest thrill as a sportsman, and it can be from your days as a quarterback, or it can be your days now as an owner of a NASCAR team.
Boy, that's a good question. Probably the NASCAR is exciting. I mean, even being part of the Daytona 500 and being, I don't say I'm just a kid from Akron because I'm not even from Akron, but like, you feel like that sometimes where like you just grow up. And then I played college football. I played at the University of Akron, and then all of a sudden have some success in business and are able to own like a professional sports team. And so the fact, and then being able to be and actually have your name and your cars and everything else at a place like the Daytona 500 and qualify and run.
You've won there.
And actually have chances to win. Yeah, we won there 3 times in the Xfinity Series. But and now we've run, I don't know how many years this is that we've been in the Daytona 500, but it's a really thrilling, amazing experience. Probably the best in college. We played, we were at the University of Akron, so you get to play sometimes at big schools. So when we played at Kansas State, when they were 4th in the country, that was probably the biggest. And they were crazy. Those fans were nuts.
Yeah.
I know they're not known for it now, but
Michael Bishop.
L. Roberson?
It might be Michael Bishop.
I don't know, but
Michael Bishop did play there.
we lost 77-0. Okay, and I've never experienced. And
you can say you went.
Bill Snyder came into the locker room after the game. So Bill Snyder was their coach.
Yeah.
And a legend, and comes into our locker room after the game and says, "Keep your heads." You guys.
That's kind of a cool move, though.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
I thought it was like.
Listen,
I was so.
played at OU and he took some tail whippings.
I was embarrassed. I was like, I can't believe the other coaches in our locker room apologizing for beating our ass 77-0.
Look what you turned that into. You kept your head up and you had some success in business.
I'm like, man, is this real life? It was actually a class move. By him because
got that bag.
Yeah,
I got the bag.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Good luck at Daytona. We're going to be following your teams as we always do, and we hope that you have huge success this year. And I want to know one thing from Peyton.
Okay.
Does he yell Omaha before he hits his tee shot? That's all I want to know. If he does, I think that might be the coolest thing ever.
I bet he does, to be funny.
That would be really cool. All right, Matt Collig stopping by the UCSS studios. Matt, thank you very much. Are we going to do Super Chats and then overtime? How do you want to do
we're going
to
do Super Chats. Matt, if you want to stick around for Super Chats, it'll take 1 minute, then we'll get you out of here. We only have 4 today. First one comes from John Harris, who says, Kevin got here before and had to run his playbook by Jimmy before each game. I'm not sure if that's still true.
Yeah, it's still true. They meet every Friday.
Okay, that's true.
With that sole purpose.
They have an offensive meeting every Friday with Jimmy and the
That's
staff.
absurd.
That makes me...
I thought that was common knowledge.
I thought that was a joke.
No.
That's really...
Okay.
Next Super Chat comes from the Guards 16. Crazy that the Haslam poll was not 90 to 100%.
Did we ever get the results on that?
owner.
Yeah, what are the results?
He won.
Yeah, we
You
did.
never
We had
told us.
600 votes. 57% said good owner. 43%
You
said
said
bad
60%.
owner. So
Go
that was
ahead.
that one. Charles T says, I hope Stefanski keeps play calling. Fans and media are now comfortable with him. I'm not ready to hear fire the OC every play call next season. And Inside Omari, last one, says, I'm on the way to Mexico right now, and I'm watching the show from 30,000 feet in the air. I have to say, you guys never miss. Love the show. Keep up the good work. So, Amari, we appreciate y'all. And we got overtime coming up here in a few minutes.
Mike, before we go to overtime,
yes.
let's bring Matt back in for a second.
Yes.
No, I have hats for you guys.
Hats.
Oh, nice.
We love free stuff.
So,
yes.
Thank you.
These
Colleague Racing hats.
Oh, these is
No,
embroidered.
those are nice hats. Too.
No.
like
These
this.
I took 4 of them from the last hats.
Yeah.
I forgot I got a
just
giant head.
these is nice.
I do not have a Colleague Racing. Well, I do now.
There you go.
Piece of memorabilia. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, always great to see you.
In overtime, we'll be reacting to the Browns concert announcement, by the way, which is coming out. They're holding a press conference for a special announcement for a concert. Has been leaked? Well, we're going to react to it in a second.
All right.
See you in overtime. 2 minutes.
We'll do that in
Peace.
overtime.
See you.
See you there. Matt, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Oh, no, this is nice right here.